So I have a little secret to let you in on, Bryce. You ready?
Hit me.
You're not gonna like it. This is the second time I played against New with Gravy. I, yeah, yeah. I know on the camera it was watching it. But they were like, "Pretty sure Austin had a lot of plans in the New," and I'm like, I haven't played this matchup at all. I haven't had time. I didn't have time.
Welcome back to the Arcane Games and Events YouTube channel. We have an incredibly special deck tech for you today because we're featuring not only a brand new hero, but one of my favorite people in the world, Austin Summers from the AGE Pro Team. Austin is a fierce competitor in this game and many other trading card games, and he back-to-back has had incredible performances at US Nationals. Last year, he hit top 8 on Prism, not Sculptor of Art, like the other one, Awakener of Soul. And this time, he brought another board state hero in Gravy Bones, Shipwrecked Looter, and just narrowly missed that top 8 cut. Nevertheless, had a fantastic weekend, and we're so happy to feature what he's got cooking for you here today. Austin, thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. Of course.
Really excited to hear not only about Gravy Bones, because he's a very exciting new hero and one that you had been cooking from day one. Before, at the moment you had like 4 cards to work with, you were going hard on this list. So there's a lot of different iterations you had throughout your journey to the Nats list that you ended up bringing and performed incredibly well on. But before we get there, Austin, I do want to get to know you just a little bit better. How was your Vegas weekend?
It was really good. Bittersweet in a way because it's my last time being in Vegas for probably a bit of time. I'm moving to Japan. As a lot of AG members know, I'll be moving there 2 weeks, actually a week. So it was nice to kind of see the city one more time, spend it with friends, go out to dinners. Just look at. I love the lights. Love the city. Honestly, it's chaotic. It's crazy, but I love it. Yeah, I was just hanging out with Matthew, Alex Vor, and Chris a lot of the time at our hotel, and bunch of goobers they are. Sure if you met them or talked to them, you can imagine that dynamic of the three of them together, just talking about their gotcha game every day, all night. Yeah, it was fun. It was fun.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned it because it is a bittersweet exit for you. You'll be gone, but certainly not forgotten. And we hope we'll have many more Austin rants in the team chat, despite the fact that you'll be a continent or an ocean away, I should say.
Absolutely.
So, furthermore, Austin, you have always been incredibly drawn to board state heroes in Flesh and Blood. It doesn't stop you from cooking just about every hero upon release. But there's an inside joke in the AG Pro Team that all roads for Austin Summers lead right back to Prism. This time,
Yep.
Gravy Bones has finally gotten you off of that kick. And tell me why. What is it about board state heroes in this game that really work for you?
I'll keep it a buck. I was this close to playing Prism again. I got really close. But I just like board state heroes in general. The way you can kind of set these dynamics and force your opponent into situations, almost like checkmating them in a way, is really fun to me. Obviously, not so much for my opponent sometimes, but I just enjoy putting these cool looking cards on the board that are permanent to say, look how pretty they are. They're all shiny and marble. If you don't like me, at least look how pretty they are. Great art design, right? Um, and just having the boys appear. Do you know? I've always played board state card games. I'm sure as many have before. 10 years now, and I think playing something like anime card games, I grow like attached to these dudes on the board. So, I think anyone who's played a board state deck in Fab kind of has the same feeling. Like this is your squad. These are your homies. So it's like a personal like enjoyment. I just enjoy having like that flavor. And then also gameplay wise, again, it's just kind of fun setting up these chess pieces here, and eventually you do a big turn, and your opponent's like, oh wait, it's gonna be hard to navigate from here. And you keep asking your opponent a question. It's kind of like how Assassin asks your opponent a question whenever an Assassin player attacks. You say, hey, want to block? Do you not want to block? What do you want to do? Board state decks tend to do the same, but the question is, do you want to attack me? Do you want to attack my board state? And what can I do as a player to make it punishing for you to attack the board state or to attack me? And so I find that interaction really fun.
It sounds like you are kind of trying to make a 1v1 sport into more of a team sport in a way.
Yeah, it's a 9v1. You're the one guy versus me and my 8 guys.
And I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
want
yeah.
to I don't want to spoil anything, Austin, because we're going to talk about it later. But you said Assassin likes to ask you a question when you're playing against them, and boy, did
Mhm.
you ask the Assassins the question this weekend, man.
Yeah. Oh, I was asking some questions for sure. I got a whole quiz.
All right,
Yeah.
well, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the list. But we're going to do it in kind of an interesting way. We are going to move chronologically with Austin through 3 separate iterations of the deck, which is far cry from how many there actually are. Austin sent me about 8 Fabry links of which he wanted to discuss, and I think that was probably reined in from what he actually has. Uh, the
Yeah.
final one, the Nats one, has Salty Spittoon, Gravy's Bones, and then like 12 copies after it, which I think is just so Austin, and I love it. But
I did you a
let,
favor. I didn't even finish the Pumble Boats version that I had. That's that one game, and I gave up on that. Nope. I was done with that real quick.
yeah, we're all grateful for it. We're
Yeah.
gonna cut right to the chase, brother. So let's go ahead and get into the first list that you sent me that kind of tells your story. This is chronologically where you were kind of initially with your build. So talk to me about the biggest differences here, or perhaps where your head was at when you first concocted this.
Right. So this list, as you can see, this is copy one. This is probably a few iterations. If you look at like the info, I believe this was created on May 18th and updated May 29th. So this is probably like my longest running list that I had going for a
Okay.
while. Funny enough, you're gonna notice a few cards that are probably a bit familiar, which we'll touch on later. But very similar to some of the top 8 lists, as well as some things Brody was running as well. So I had basically my thought process before this deck came out. I was talking with Colin and Zach, 2 other numbers/Force enthusiasts themselves, and we realized that as the more I talk, the more I'm like, we're gonna need some sort of go again. We're gonna need some blue go again cards that keep putting the stuff on board. Blues are obviously the most important part, right? At a point before I even had any cards, I was running like blue Zealous Belting because you can check the power of your allies. They clearly got way better cards than that. I think at this point of the list, I took out all of the blue attacks because I was super worried about new. So there wasn't any blue attacks in this list. But I was running like Command and Conquer with the Limpets at 3. I was trying out the 6 Golden Tipple, 2 of the Sea Legs to make the Golden Tipple keep working. I think at a point there was an E-Strike in this list as well at 3. I had That's how you got as well that I was trying out for the assassin matchup. Was like, all right, well they can't really dagger my allies efficiently, so they can probably dagger me, and I can value on that. It's a whole thing. So
Talk
that's
to me
kind of like how that turned out. Yeah.
talk to me a little bit about the amulets, because this is a hotly contested topic in Gravy Bones list nowadays. Ruby
Yeah.
Amulet, for example, is one that's in this list and didn't make it out to nationals.
Mm-hmm. Well, so the amulets, I don't get them. Like I get them and I don't. Like they're cool, and when you flip them off the top with a jittery bones, restless bones, you get the action point, go again, and then like if it's a red one, you turn on the thing. So like maybe in like a red line with jittery and restless, like it's really strong. Um, and like setting up like a ruby amulet on board, and later on like having to block out your entire hand, pop ruby amulet, and then play a rigor mortis and then attacking with it. 0 card rigor mortis for 6, basically 7 value because it has to get killed. It's pretty good if you ask me. Um, it was just like such like it became so anti what the game plan was to me at a point that I just kind of started taking the stuff out. I mean, it was the only one that was like still game plan worthy because it's setting up this board state game plan against you know uh, fatigue matchups, Guardians, Florians, and such. Whereas Ruby Amulet wasn't really doing that. Like it had those cute plays, but it wasn't leaning into what I needed to do. Either be really aggressive and set up a board, or be very defensive and set up a board and ask questions. Unfortunately, so that eventually got cut pretty quickly. And I've tried all of the amulets, not all of them, but most of them. Um, and Diamond Amulet was the only one I was ever like, yeah, this card's awesome.
Mm.
Um,
And so, before we get too in the weeds with each of these individual cards and why they are making the list, what can you remember about this list that you made on May 18th, what wasn't working about it that made you reiterate?
So there were many things I really liked. For a long, long time, I'm like, how do we not play Command and Conquer? It's the most broken card ever. If you can play it, you play it. Like you have limpets that just super flow well in the Command and Conquer play lines. Tipples, the that's how you got was cute, you know. There was a breaking point though. There's a few. One of the breaking points for me is I kept playing Chart the High Seas and milling res on the top of my deck, and I almost lost my mind. Um,
I
and I
remember
think
I
if you're gonna,
remember that moment in chat. You were like, "I never want to miss Uncharted the High Seas again."
yeah, I think last weekend I missed once, and it literally cost me the game. And I'm like, well, at least it was once out of, and it wasn't I was during a battle card. It wasn't even during nationals. So, I was like, okay, well, at least I missed one. But yeah, I hate missing. I think chart dices is so strong, and like if you're gonna play all these red attacks, you just take out the chart, which is actually Yuki ended up doing on her deck profile. I think she doesn't have charts in her list. So I'm like, yeah, of course not. You're playing all these reds, like chart's terrible at that point. But I think chart in general, because of some of the card interactions we'll get into later, is so strong that it's worth maybe taking out some of these reds. And I also just hate red cards. I mean, I play Prism, so unless my red cards are making Ash that make Ash wings, I don't want to play them. Um, so those CNCs ended up leaving, and when CNCs left, the entire deck just kind of changed. Like, why am I playing three limpet? Like one limpet is really strong. Two limpet is probably pretty good, but three limpet it gets a little cloggy. You're not always playing them over and over again. Like, do you really want to be keep playing? Like in some matchups, you don't even want to play them. Like against Ninja, why would I want to play limpet, attack for two, play another ally, get them both blown up? They draw two cards off a snatch and a mask, and then I'm like, oh, what? I just did 2 damage. My turn cycle was 2 damage, you know. So Limpet went down to one after that. Golden Tipple was really good, which I kept in for a while as well. But yeah, the deck started to change from there, which we actually end up leading into like deck two. You can kind of see some of the changes I made
Well, let's
when
proceed
going
right
after the
there,
second
Austin.
list. Yep.
Let's see. This one now is from May 30th. This is only
Yeah.
12 days after that first one you were talking about. And mind you, in the series of decks you sent me, there were probably like 2 or 3 between what we've shown as version 1 and now version 2. So you are iterating and adapting fast.
Yeah. Yeah, I keep trying to update every single time. Like the deck starts to lose, I take note of what's losing, what's working. I'll change it, and eventually, sometimes I just try something completely off the walls or something completely different. This is one of those times where I tried something completely different. So I can only the AGE team helps me with testing, but as Zach is busy with college, and Andrew is busy as well with his life right now. I need to start reaching out to other resources that are board state players. So I looked at the internet, and one of the things I saw people keep talking about was prismatic ley lines. And if you know me, I hate prismatic ley lines because I'm like, this card is so awful. I'm like, it's just a 0 for 3 at best. And then I reread the card and I was like, oh, it works every single time you attack. So I didn't know this for like the entire time it came out. And I was like, oh, this card's actually pretty good. Wait, maybe this card has potential. So I was like, all right, I'll give it a try. I tried. So I tried making like this is like the ley lines deck I made. This is when I was like, I'm gonna go all in on like the ley line stuff. I got the blue jittery bones here, I got like 2 Oyston. I'm just trying to swing at my opponent. I think there's a Shelly that used to be a Swabby. I don't know. This deck got edited a few times as well. Um, I was just trying some stuff out. I think the Shellys were like in there as I was deck editing, and then I I changed them. Like they weren't in the test build. They were Swabbies at one point. But the idea was okay. Basically, with the other lists, I was having issues. Is there was too many allies at some points. There were awkward hands, and aggro decks were just blowing me up. I sit across the Syndra, they blow me up. I sit against Warrior, like Fang, they blow me up, and they could also fatigue me. It was so annoying. I didn't have enough damage output. So what I was looking for was a yellow card that I could keep recycling with Scuba that gives me a push up of value that my opponent can't really deal with. So putting 5 value back into your deck once or twice is probably pretty good, against those fatigue matchups. And then against aggro matchups, you can do really cool stuff where you're throwing like 14, 15 damage at your opponent with only 3 cards. Using Verdant's Rabble plus Prismatic Ley Lines and Hoiston is 11 damage for 2 cards, which is disgusting. 2 card 11, Guardian Wishes. Maybe next step. Maybe next step the Seismic Surges. But yeah, 2 card 11s are pretty good. 3 card 14s are also pretty good. And I'm not really including the value of the ally dying either, which is like a separate value system, which is like hard to quantify depending on what deck you're playing against, right? Um, so this is kind of where I started to land. I really like Prismatic Ley Lines. I moved Limpet to the sideboard. This is like my sideboard package against like slower decks, just Moray, Limpet, Whaler. Boom. Throws against slow decks, usually gets the job done. This deck was doing really good for a long time as well. I had the 6 Golden Tipple. I've tried 9. I want to go up to 9. I tried 9, went back to 6. I eventually went back to 3, which we'll get back to in the next list. But basically, I played against some Ira, and what was happening was, so I was playing against my buddy on Ira, like a very aggressive Ira list. He lives in Thailand, at least he lives in Arizona. And I was just like, I keep drawing these tipples in this aggro matchup, and they feel so bad once I'm up online. Like the beginning, they're awesome, they're super great, but late game or mid game, they're 2 blocks. They're not what I really want to be playing. I don't want to be spending a card on a 2 card hand. Like pitch a blue, play a 1 for 2 or 1 for 1. I'd rather at least have the Murder's Rabble and then play a dude from board. So it always kind of felt awkward. And like if I'm playing the tipple, that means I have to keep a 3rd card to discard. And like that means I'm keeping almost a full grip against Ninja. And a lot of times when I play that matchup, I'm actually blocking like I'm kind of like either taking the full hand or I'm blocking with 2 cards, depending if they kill an ally and get the mash trigger. If they get the mash trigger, I'll take it all. If they can't get the mash trigger that turn, I'll block out. And I kind of keep switching over and over. But Golden Temple doesn't allow that flexibility against Ninja. Uh, so what ended up happening was that got removed from the list, and I just went back to the blues. And I switched up some of the ally counts as well. I think there was a moment in the team chat as well where I was up all night again as I've been for the past weeks, and it was like I started crashing out again. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm losing a ninja again. The prismatic ley lines are good, but they're cloggy sometimes. I'm hitting like double yellow off a chart now because I have like 21 yellows in the list, and I just draw like a hand of full yellows. I track 3 gold. I draw 4 yellows. I'm going nuts. I'm going crazy here. There's too many yellows in the deck. Everything's kind of jumbled up. Um, uh, I think I had, yeah. It was just awkward. It was just awkward hands. And I was getting frustrated. So I ended up changing a few things, and I remember I wrote down I just want to play every single ally in this deck because they each have a great matchup when they are also terrible in other matchups. And I think at that point it kind of clicked, and I was like, wait a minute, I'm I'm playing a deck that has a toolbox of your graveyard as basically your second hand. Why would I not just play one of every ally? And that kind of lead us into our nationals list that we got going on.
And
So
before we go there, Austin, I do want to take note of one of the things that really told the story of your blues in the last list. You were really concerned about new, and so you were leaving blue attacks out. So now we've got plenty of other blue attacks besides Golden Tipple. We got Saltwater Swell. We got Jittery Bones. What changed your mind on that? Did you start feeling more comfortable in the matchup, or is it that you just really wanted to make this prismatic ley line work?
I wish I could say I was a genius on the first one, but it was a second one. I was just brute forcing. I said I'll figure it out later. Like if the Guardian players can cope, so can I. I can cope as
Mm.
well. Um, Realistically, I understood that having all these attacks would be an issue, but there was for a very long period of time in all my deck iterations that I made, I kept having to worry about new, and it kept constraining the way I built my deck. And to the point where I was running, you can actually, it's not on the list anymore. I think this is where the point where I said, you know what, screw it. If I fight against anyone, I get punished. It is what it is. I had I don't have any loot the arsenal in my list at
Mm-hmm.
all, which I did in my last one. I don't have it in this one, this variation. This is, I think, where I started to take it out of my list, and it started to come back in and out throughout, the course of making decks. I was tired of it. I think loot the arsenal currently in this meta, it doesn't make any sense. The card doesn't make any sense. Like I already have Conquer the High Seas, which is fantastic, but because I have that card, aggro decks that can spit out 5 card hands are just going to spit out 5 card hands usually. They're not going to keep the arsenal. And against slower decks, I want to block you anyways. Loot the arsenal doesn't do anything. So overall, the card was just always underperforming. It was never hitting. It just like it never connects properly. And I know that's the point of it to never connect. But I mean, it never connects in the way that my opponent just doesn't have an arsenal, or they're gonna like double D-react this attack anyways. It's like, and they're gonna just poke an ally because they're Florian. It's like, why am I even playing this card? Whereas Loot the Hold demands interaction, even if you have no arsenal from aggro decks. So that one like was a 3 of no matter what. Like that card's nuts. Ripping a card out of an aggro deck's hand and then saying, okay, now you have to deal with my ally. It's really strong, and also you can just against slower decks you can attack, and if they end up blocking too early, you can punish them for early blocks by saying, oh, you only have 1 card in hand. Ooh, rough, buddy. Here's Loot the Arsenal. Give me that last card past your turn. Now I establish one board state. You lose the game. A lot more effective than trying to destroy your arsenal. And if I go conquer the high seas and loot the arsenal, it's so 2 different fronts to attack on. Yeah.
And so I do want to highlight this change in reasoning for you, because one of the early critiques of Gravy Bones after we had all the cards was that he just didn't have enough access to disruption. And so you are basically losing not only Loot the Arsenal, but also Command and Conquer, one of the best disruptors in the game. And so how did you kind of justify it in your mind, or did it kind of become like, well, if I just become the deck that is asking the question constantly, then I don't have to be disrupting?
Right. It's kind of a mix, ally decks do enjoy having disruption in their deck. There's them likes running the card at bottom decks, their opponent's stuff, and I mean Droma used to run CNCs and whatnot. But ally decks, they don't need the disruption. It just helps kind of put your opponent on like the back foot. So it's partially because I was like, all right, I already do have 6 options of disruption. I think that's enough. We don't have to make this like I'm not playing assassin. The entire deck doesn't have to be disruption.
Mm-hmm.
On top of just like the CNCs and Loot the Arsenals were a bit overkill, especially people are kind of going into the tournament possibly saying, oh, dude, I'm going to play against Gravy. He has 9 CNCs. I'm just going to run Crown of Providence, never Arsenal pass. Like, okay, no point. There's no point in running 9 CNCs at that point. It just becomes a bit overkill, and it doesn't really affect the deck, especially when I can establish a board state and ask the question, like you said, that way. Here's my board state. How do you deal with it? Rather than trying to play this like attack your arsenal minigame throughout the point. So, just the matches where it was good, people could play around it, and the matches where it was bad, I always took it out. So at that point, why even run them? So.
And so with that, Austin, let's go ahead and proceed to the list that made it to Vegas Nationals. This is the one, the only, the 5-0 in Swiss of day one list. Talk me through it. Let's take our time here a little bit more and talk about the efficacy of each of these cards, because now we're starting to cut down into like, 2 ofs here, 1 of there, the crew, the entourage of 1 of pirate necromancer allies that are sitting lying in wait in your inventory, ready to come in and help the boy out whenever they need.
Yep. Yeah, I really like how this list turned out. I'm a really big fan. I always like putting in allies in my deck that aren't really good sometimes, but this time it was more so I'm not doing it just like, oh, like I'll draw a Vincier guy and I'll never see it again. I block with it. Bye-bye. It's like these allies all have a purpose in a matchup, and they can all sit in the graveyard waiting for that purpose to kind of arise. And having all those options, I feel, makes your deck so much stronger in matchups. I put 2 ofs of here. Like, there's obviously 3 of the main guys, Chum and Sawbones, no doubt. And then 3 ofs of all your engine pieces and whatnot. But 2 ofs of some of the allies that, like, they're really good. You can live without seeing them. You once or a few times. And then 1 of the allies I want to search out, and I need them for specific reasons, for specific matchups, at certain circumstances. And I think I also had like the 2 Sunken Treasure and 2 Throw Caution to the Wind, just as like the swap between 2 defensive options there, which we can get into in a bit. But yeah, we can start from the top there. So going from the very top to Anka, just going down. I'll briefly touch on equipment too, actually, if that's fine. If many people touch on it, many people touch on it. I'll touch on it right now. I'll just get out of the way. very standard from what we've seen from a lot of Gravy Bones, Classic Crown, Dead Threads, Gold Beta, Mage Master Boots. They're really tough because Mage Master Boots and Crown Dominion are good, but they also kind of suck. Uh, in the way that like they just do the thing that they've been doing for years, which the Crown like is basically like how every illusionist has always worked. The chess piece is like your main card. The boots are your extra action point to do something stupid in fatigue matchups. Your headpiece is your like I have my it makes your engine kind of work card, like in Dromite it was literally just Crown again. In Enigma it was your big burst turn, and in Prism it was your big burst turn. So this is the exact same as consistency over anything else. Death Res is really broken. No need to talk about it. I know some people are trying Tunic. This card is nuts. I think you probably get a resource every single turn for the first 9 turns of the game, then block with it. I can't. I can't believe they printed this card.
Yeah,
I can only imagine. So come
you
again?
you think one resource every 3 turns is good? How about one
Yeah,
every single turn?
right. And then you don't feel bad blocking with it later in the game because like you've probably already got most of what you need from it. So yeah, the card's nuts and it looks beautiful. Gold Beta Hook. Now this is the card that is like the gravy staple, and if there's any card that you need to upgrade your armory deck for, it's this card. This is the only card you actually need. Uh, the other cards are great. They are awesome. You do want them. They make everything work well. This is the number one card. This changes how your entire deck plays. I love this card. This is such awesome game design. As an illusionist, I actually have never played an arm piece in Flesh and Blood that does anything. So to have an arm piece that does something was so fun. It's super cool. You're basically doing the Treasure Island minigame, but with an equipment piece, and all your allies are going to activate it. And it's just super cool to both have this constant pressure and kind of building of resources, kind of like an Ash, kind of building of an Ash token, like if the weapons just make an Ash every single time. Nuts. But on top of that, in the late game, mid to late game, you have like this mind piece card. There's many times you'll see where I will in the late game say, I haven't made any gold this turn. I'll tap my hook. I'm gonna bait you. This is literally the gold baited hook. I'm baiting you. I'm rage baiting. Please block it because you're so tired of me getting gold. But at this point, when I use it, the gold doesn't matter. Um, but are you really gonna let me keep getting gold? Because if you don't blow it up, now I'm gonna keep farming gold anyways, which could actually be really good because I'm gonna draw like 3 cards off or draw 2 cards or 3 cards off 3 gold tokens. I can basically like play a Tome of Divinity with 2 blues. So I guess gold is the payoff. But it gets kind of nuts. So this card just has so many like versatility options and so much gameplay making potential, and being able to bait your opponent to blocks is just so fun and so cool. I love the card. Mage Master Boots, Mage Master Boots. It is what it is. Uh, I know some people run the defensive reflexers, quick dodge flexors, whatever. Um, I don't. I understand block with your allies is cool. You can also like discard, use your tunic to block an extra 2 block, but Mage Master Boots set up your combos that you do like triple ally turns, double triple ally turns, and it's just way better. And then like the times where you're just trying to block quick dodge flexes like in a ninja, but they're usually swinging 3 and not 2. So now you're just blocking 2 and then letting them leak 1. So you're still getting the mash triggers. What's the point? I'd rather just put double ally on the board, swing both using double action point, whatever. So Major Master Boots are goaded. All right, on to
So
the crew.
yeah,
Oh,
definitely the
yes.
crew. I do have one follow up question.
Yes.
I think everybody's kind of reaction to Crown of Dominion is like maybe that it's a necessary evil. But hearing you talk about gold baited hook does make me wonder, like, why is it so necessary to start on board with a single gold? Can you break that down for me?
For sure, yeah. This was an issue I've ran into with the deck for a very long time. Even still now, I still have this issue. Your first turn can be really bad. Your first 2 turns can be really, really bad. You don't really just want to like play an ally pass. I mean, you can. It's kind of like a time, but you're not really doing anything. And if you just keep playing an ally pass, your opponent keeps attacking you with like playing warrior. Now you're just losing the game. So you need that gold on board against slower decks that can kind of fatigue you to start getting the guys in the graveyard and trying to get like one or two allies in a graveyard at a time, and start just ramping really quickly your graveyard options, and so you can overwhelm your opponent. So having that gold early just allows you to keep doing that and like ramping up your graveyard. Now the card that discards, blocks, draws a card, effectively the same thing. But this lets you do it on your turn, turn one or turn two, and can help fix out hands that are just really bad. So it's a necessary evil for now, unfortunately. As we get better necromancer equipment cards as time goes on, I'm sure the boots or the headpiece will probably get replaced by some legendary busted card that just does something insane.
Mm-hmm.
But in the meantime, this gets the job done. It's good enough. It's good enough. It keeps your engine going, and I'm sure once we get better cards that generate more gold as expansion slots, or maybe we end up adding more gold generators into the deck, maybe it could leave in the future. But for now, it's just such a good starting piece for consistency. I think you just run it because of that. But if you if you need to play something else, it's totally fine. Like if you want for budget reasons, something else, you're not gonna be like my hero's unplayable now. You'll be okay. You'll just be unhappy a little bit sometimes, but yeah.
And then before we finally get to the Undead Crew, I do want to touch on Compass of Sunken Deaths, because this was kind of a contentious card when it was first revealed. Not necessarily when it was first revealed, because it gave way to a lot of speculation. It's like, okay, if this is Gravy's offhand, then what is his weapon going to be? And then when it was finally revealed to us that there was never going to be a weapon, I think there was a lot of disappointment that kind of went through the Gravy Bones hype community. But that being said, dude, watching you pilot this deck with the Compass, there were certain turn cycles where I was like, this is the most broken weapon in the entire game. Like, how do you feel about Compass?
It's funny. I remember when Compass came out, I was like building the deck without it, without like knowing what other weapon we may have had, and a lot of teammates, friends were like, "Oh, don't even worry about it. We're gonna get." Like, are you sure, guys? Like, this card's already pretty good. So, like, illusionist only gets one weapon, but I wouldn't call any illusionist when we ever got a weapon. Like, it's a
Mm-hmm.
weapon by all technicalities. It says weapon on the card, but the Drone My weapon is basically the exact same thing, but not really. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't. You don't attack with the weapon. It just gives your allies effects. This gives your allies effects. Um, it's not going to make your allies get go again and do a bunch of stupid stuff, and you attack with like 5 Ash Wings or whatever. But it's still, for what the deck requires, it does a really good job doing it. And the allies, since they can attack on their own, I don't even know what a weapon in this deck would. Like if you gave a board state, I even thought about it. I talked with some buddies after in the car ride back from Vegas, and I'm like, I don't even know what a weapon in Gravy Bones could look like without breaking the fundamentals of the game, unless it just also did an attack. Because if you gave him like a sword, could you imagine trying to fatigue? You spend all game trying to fatigue a board state deck because that's all your deck can do, and then they just attack you with a sword on top of like a limpet every turn. You would go insane. You'd be like, this is the most disgusting thing ever.
Mm-hmm.
So like I think the expectations of a weapon were a bit misplaced, mainly because I think players were like just so used to it. Like, how could we ever get here without a weapon? But the offhand technically is the weapon. It basically is the weapon. It just gets a bit more interaction with Jarl and such, fortunately. Um, but also opens up for the world that maybe they would do a weapon in the future. I'm not counting on it. I don't expect it to ever happen. I think necromancers always just be offhand because it kind of makes sense in terms of like, I guess, lore, and they do a lot of card design based on lore and theme. And thematically, a necromancer doesn't ever attack. They always have an offhand. So makes sense.
And the
And
main
yeah,
hand is perhaps being used to like conjure the weapons essentially
conjure them.
from the
Yeah,
watery grave.
he's
He's
raised them up.
using both
Yeah.
hands, folks. He's occupied.
Yeah, he's occupied. He's busy. The man's busy. Let him do his thing. Yeah, maybe he's holding his loot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a busy man. Yeah, it would be cool if he got a sword. Like thematically, it's like he's a pirate. But again, the only thing is in the future, if LSS does create a generic one hand weapon, they have to be very careful. So it does open up a way, and maybe it wouldn't be the most broken thing ever if you got a weapon. But in the future, a few years down the line, when other decks are just doing the most insane things ever, power creep is something. But I like what they did with it. It's cool. The Jarl matchup's hard, but not really. We'll get into that in a later bit. But yeah,
All right, I've delayed it
cool.
long enough. Let's talk about the crew and the thematic significance to necromancer. Specifically, the way that you've arranged this deck is not lost on me. Like, I think this is exactly what LSS was imagining. Like, really leaning on these allies and choosing your team correctly based on what you're about to see, like matchup specific zombies here and there. And I think that's like kind of part and parcel, like the ethos of how you came to this 80 right here.
Yep. Yep. So of course, no cruise without its boat. Conquer the High Seas is the most broken card ever. It's basically that catch-up card. It's kind of like the crown tree, whatever that Florian and the broken card from Florida. So, the one that just does stupid stuff. Card's broken, card's nuts. Playthrough. Going on to the crew itself, though. Conquer the High Seas. And so when you draw that, you can go play your blue. That turns on playing the Rigor Mortis. And then you play the Conquer the High Seas. You'll have two floating, which is exactly enough to play the Rigor Mortis. And then swing with that, following up. Usually the blue you play is like a loot the hold. But it could be anything. It could be a Murderous Rabble, it could be Part of the High Seas,
Mm-hmm.
Call to the Grave, a Vasti, whatever you want it to be. Um, but it just kind of allows for a very clean dynamic. So I like having him one in the side just for when I need those matchups, aggro matchups and whatnot. And then Shelly is the other companion for Anka. So I'm either like doing two Anka and Shelly or two Anka and Mortis. Shelly is there for decks that can't really clear allies efficiently with 4 HP or more. So think Assassin hates clearing 4 HP or more allies. They love 3 HP. 3 HP is easy. 4, that's when you're usually spending about 2 cards, maybe even 3, usually 3, depending on what the deck is. And also, it allows it so he can sit there and, like, you want to attack me? Well, I can just tap him and start getting effects based on, attacking me. So it's really good to Assassin. Decent to, like, Florian as well. I don't can play in a Florian if you want, like, an extra ally. That's to be more tested. Some of the ally ratios sometimes, like, where I bring them to refinement. I do like bringing Shelly into Warrior as well because Fang usually hits 4 quite often. For example, 5, that's a different number. That's usually the end of the combat chain. And do you really want to be investing 5 plus maybe even more damage on top of that with any other chain link enders? And the second chain link is usually like the attack they want to hit you with because that's the one that's like marking you or doing something really crazy. So uh, being 5 is like pretty annoying because I get the effect off initially by blocking the first Fang attack. And then it's like, well, at that point, you're really going to kill Shelly. He's tapped. Ignore him, whatever. Um, so I like Shelly for the Warrior and Assassin matchups. And that's kind of like why all these one-ups exist, is to bring in a certain matchups based on what I'm fighting for. Going on to the next one on top, we'll go back to Chum there. So Chum, 3 of, I think he's always in the main board no matter what. I don't know what matchup you wouldn't take him in. I've heard people say side him. Um, People also said side ALS, and so that's in a discussion. We don't side ALS, we don't side this. Um,
And he
the card
basically
stats are
is necro ALS in certain respects, right?
right, and like even if you don't use his effect, he's still he's just strong enough like to be that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like you use Gravy Bones effect, he's now online with a blue. And that's or use Gravy Bones effect. You play blue. He's now online with pitching a blue using your chess piece, right? He attacks for free. If you have no plans on ever using his effect, he's still a really big body. 6 HP is a lot. And it's really interesting playing with these really big HP allies. It's not something that I've ever done because Dromai, the HP didn't really matter usually because they just get blown up by Phantasm, and most of their HP was pretty low anyways. And then the Angels all have so having an ally permanent that has so much HP that can't be blown up by something ridiculous like a popper or arcane damage is like It's just like its whole own universe. And six is a lot. Like six is a lot to deal with. You're throwing a whole CNC at that guy, or something else. Like not even E Strike can cleanly clear this attack, clear him unless you have like a Might token. So he's quite strong. He's just overall really annoying for most six to deal with. Even Syndra has to throw 2 head jabs at him to clear him, and then they draw 1 card sure off the headpiece, but they've already wasted 2 cards into him. So you've basically saved 3 life when you play the card, and you've also attacked for 4. So it's 7 value effectively. Against Syndra, which is always clearing your allies, it's still really good. Like that's still a lot of value you're saving. So he definitely is quite good. Always the mainstay. He is the first mate for a reason.
So what do you think,
Going
Austin?
next.
If you
Uh,
could only play him or ALS for the rest of your Flesh and Blood career, who do you choose?
don't put that on me.
Come
Don't
on, man.
say
This is
that. I
you're
love
the
this
only
card.
person who is
Uh,
appropriate for this question.
all right. If honesty, it's probably ALS because ALS
Ah.
is so broken. It should probably be banned. It probably will. Like if they make another Prism, I'd be shocked after she LLs. ALS is literally broken. This card is pretty good though. I like the art.
I do too.
It's cool. Yeah, cool guy. Makes assassin very mad.
N-
So that's fun.
Next up,
Yeah.
Cuddy Shark, quick clip.
Yep, he's good. He is 4 HP. That's all I was looking for. A lot of these allies, I just played some for their HP totals. 4 HP means a few things. Again, what I mentioned with Shelly, Assassin cannot clear it with 1 card. They need 2. He usually gets ignored. Or he gets 2 cards off Assassin, which is great. Fang can clear it a bit easier, but they have to invest the whole attack into it. They can't just do like the tricks, right? They can't go attack with a weapon, plain instant speed. They're like, oh no, he lives. So you still ask for some of the bigger cards. Um, and then Florian actually is pretty important. Florian can't clear this card with the weapon. They need to use unless they have like a might token for
Mm.
whatever reason. We're gonna usually not attacking for the first few turns into Florian. So this card just sits on the board and it's like, do you really want to waste an E strike on a Cuddy Shark? No, you don't. You don't want to waste E strike on a Cuddy Shark. That's terrible. Um, so he just kind of sits there and is like asking this hard question from your opponent, clear him, and he'll usually end up getting ignored because of that. And then when he gets ignored, his effect on board is really strong, adding more damage stacking to allies later on. He's not strong enough like Chum to be that mainstay all the time, but he is a nice 2 of who, of course, has 1 of partners. If we go down to the 1 of section again, usually any of my 2 ofs typically have a 1 of partner that I end up playing. So Oyston is the 0 cost other option for you to play. The same idea as Rigor Mortis, kind of. He's a 3/1 free attack, but I actually don't always bring him into aggro matchups. Sometimes I do. Uh, but he's also pretty solid into surprisingly slow matchups because Florian, like we were saying, he can clear Cuddy Shark really easily. Now, does Florian really want to clear an Oyston? Maybe over some other targets, probably not. So you put Oyston next to Sawbones, Sawbone always dies. And then Oyston just kind of lives a turn. So what ends up happening sometimes is that Oyston will sit on the board doing nothing for like 5 turns as you're building up like double ally, double ally, double ally. And there becomes a point where you get Moray on the board in Florian, and then Oyston starts just getting a bunch of counters. And I've had an Oyston at 3 counters before that they can't clear because if they ignore Oyston, that means Moray, my chum I just played, and like a Sawbones or a Whaler are just going to survive. And it's like, oh, great. So Oyston just ends up sitting on the board and just becomes like a Shimmer's target effectively. He's like that aura you don't ever want to attack.
Mm.
Um, he's also really good as a 1 of just like, oh, I want to play him and just. He's a nice target for a call to the grave sometimes when it's like the first card, the first ally you want to play on the board. So in aggro matchups, he's not bad in aggro, but he's maybe not the greatest in the Syndra. I prefer him more as a fatigue matchup. Funny enough, uh, the other ones are usually like Scuba is usually where other kind of spot goes. Um, Scuba's really nice in terms of also again the slower matchups though. Uh, I usually bring Scuba in for decks like uh, Florian again or Warrior, who are going to try and fatigue you out, and you can recycle your Prismatic Ley Lines, which we have in the deck, in there as a two of. Um, and so that was just kind of like avoid getting fatigued really quickly against these Warriors and these Room Blades who are going to keep attacking you and trying to outvalue you with a weapon. So he's quite nice there. And that's usually when I bring him in. I actually don't bring him into Assassin, even though he does have the 4 HP, because Assassin wants to kill you and sometimes kill your allies. And since he doesn't really represent a target that you like, I need to kill him now, he just gets ignored a lot versus Assassin. And usually your allies getting ignored is good, but in Scuba's case, it's really bad. You want the Assassin player to attack your allies, you need to give him a reason to. So he is not brought into Assassin for that reason. Um, we'll go back up to Sawbones is the next one. So Sawbones is, of course, again another three of, just too strong. It's too good. That's it. Card's nuts. Yeah, no, card is literally broken. It swings for 6 for 1 resource. You can has two costs. You can end up playing 2 of them on the same turn, using like a chart the high seas or using even just you use like a chart the high seas in dead threads, and now you can play 2 of them like nuts. Uh, 1 damage prevention. Usually people throw like head jab at anyways, so the prevention doesn't do anything. But because he's so strong, he swings so high. Um, it's kind of what inspired the rigor mortis is just having that 6 power. It allows you when you're fighting these aggro matchups to start beating on your opponent with big attacks. So either you want big damage or you want big life, and he is big damage. He's also very strong if they ignore him, so they can never ignore him. Like he just is the one ally that cannot get ignored ever. If they do, your opponent's going to start losing the game very quickly. He's really strong.
And he also kind
Very
of
strong.
has this effect of just pushing up the butt, shall we say, of every single other ally. Like if an ally was
Mm-hmm.
annoying to remove before, they're going to be probably doubly annoying with +1 life from Sawbones. So it seems like the play pattern that usually ends up unfolding is that your opponent's like, well, if I want to clear this board, I have to clear the Sawbones first, even if it is inefficient to do so.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Or they have to like send over damage on certain allies that send like too much damage to clear Sawbones. He creates very annoying game states, and then when he is just by himself attacking, he's also attacking for a lot of damage.
Mhm.
So overall, he is just like a linchpin in the deck. He makes everything work. Such a good card. Such a
Next
good
up, the
card.
limited staple Swabe.
Yeah, Swabby. Okay, for a long time, I remember I wasn't on this card for a very very long time. I was like, this card must suck. It's a vanilla. I hate vanilla. It's you gross. Um, but I started trying him more and more, and I'm like, oh, this card's actually pretty broken. So he's like a mini Whaler in a way. His partner's Whaler. They are the big attacking dudes in the matchup, where you just usually slamming your opponent with 7 on a loot the hold or whatever. He's pretty much always in the list. But all these allies here are almost always in the list except Anka. Anka can come in and out, so I guess technically he should probably be the sideboard as well. But since Anka's in for enough matchups, I leave him in. He's honorary main ally. Um, but Swabby is just way too good. His damage starts to scale really crazily against slow decks. They have to deal with him again because you're going to ignore 7 damage. And then when you put him next to other allies, well, you're going to attack Swabby, you're going to attack Chum. Well, you probably got to attack the Chum. So he's just one of those cards that sit there and just starts farming a bunch of free damage. Uh, and yeah, he's overall really good. He's just basically your red card replacement. He is the red card. He's the damage of the deck. He allows you to push more damage on board and allow you not get fatigued very easily by other decks here. So I think he's really really strong. I only put him at 2. I think anything at 3 is overkill. Um, you don't need Swabby to close out games. He's more of the early mid game kind of card. But he will, if he is ignored, he will close out games, which we end up seeing in my stream match at Nationals. He got ignored, and yeah, he did a lot of damage. So
Next up's a big man,
going,
Whaler Humperdinck.
yep, big man, yep. So I have 3 in the list. For the longest time, I was playing 3 in the main board. it becomes too cloggy. So I went down to one in the main board, two in the side. I think having him at one is still a nice kind of like spike turn. Again, it's like utility, right? Even if you're playing against like assassin, just having one in the main board is kind of nice because, or sorry, not assassin,
Ninja.
ninja.
Mhm.
Yeah, ninja. Same thing. Do daggers. But if you're playing as ninja, where they're trying to kill you, you get them to a low enough light total at like 8, and you play a whaler. I'm pretty sure they just lose the game. Like they're like, wait a minute, seven's a lot. That's not even like your two head jabs are enough, and then you have the block two cards not to die from a whaler attack. So it's that checkmate kind of card that even at one of is really easy to kind of end up playing out late game sometimes. It's searchable as well, which we'll get into in a second. So yeah, it's just overall I like one of it in every matchup, and then I add in two more in the slower matchups like Florian and Guardian. And yeah, actually I take it into some assassin. I don't take it into Slippy. Slippy's too fast. Uh, Maybe I'll bring like one more. But against like New and Arachne, they don't like dealing with it. He's too big. He's huge. So having like that extra copy of Whaler into New and Assassin and Mario, they're just like, oh, how do I kill this? It can be quite annoying. But yeah, he's a good guy.
So you've touched on it a little bit, but there are a few, no, literally only one ally in the sideboard that we haven't discussed at this point. It's Chowder Hardy Cook. When does he come in?
Right, right. So Chowder comes in into matchups, kind of like I was talking about Shelly, where you really want your opponent to attack your allies. So he comes into like Assassin. Basically, anytime there is on hit effects, you want to direct the damage from you to the allies. Can't ignore these allies. Please attack them. Um, so Assassin is typically the mainstay. Now, Chowder is a contentious one. A lot of people say, why do you only play one Chowder? Why don't you play three Chowder? The card is nuts. The card is nuts. The card, if ignored, gets you so much value. But my issue with it is that I think so. I tested the card at 3. The card is really strong, but anything more than the one, I feel is overkill because you usually the one when it gets ignored is like enough to kind of start setting up that board state when you kind of you put or you can set up the chowder alongside like use chowder after you have a board state, right? So I already have a chum and a swabby, and maybe the chum just died. Now I can put chowder alongside something else, like chowder plus swabby or whoever, literally anyone else. And now it's like, okay, well you can't ignore Sawbones this turn. So chowder then starts doing his thing. But like multiple chowders is kind of overkill. He gets you a lot of life, but he doesn't stop you getting fatigued at all. And so I wanted to spend that room for other options in the board rather than just having like this card that only encourages me to get fatigued a bit more. But I do like the one of inclusion because he is like you put him on the board and he's annoying to deal with. Florian doesn't like dealing with him. Guardian doesn't like dealing with him. Azalea too hates dealing with him. Azalea's just like I don't want to kill that thing.
Mm-hmm.
So if they invested all their time into killing allies, like he doesn't really do anything. But if they're ignoring allies and trying to kill you, he's nuts. I had a game on day 2 where my opponent was trying to kill me the entire game. And my board state became Chowder, Oyston, two cards you ignore, Swabby, and Chum. And it's like, or sorry, Sawbones and Chum. It's like, well, there's an order, and Chowder just happens to be the third in that list of guys who need to die. So I think he got me like 6 or 7 life. But playing two Chowders, it's like, oh, well, that's a bit overkill. What's the point? It gets a little cloggy. It's not good in every matchup. So yeah, I like where he's at one. I think he's good as like a tech option for when you need that extra bit of life against decks that can't kill your allies, and decks that can't kill your allies very easily. Have that 3 power breakpoint. Um, that is when he's just okay. You know?
Can we
Yeah.
maybe think about Chowder coming in matchups where you'd like it would be nice to have Valiant Dynamos in this matchup in a certain respect?
Yeah, exactly. I can see that. Yeah, where you would take Valiant Dynamos as a warrior player, you're trying to like transition from warrior to necromancer. I guess it doesn't really add block points as much,
Mm-hmm.
but it does just kind of free farm life. So I really just like it in terms of matchups that cannot clear allies effectively. I'll bring it into assassin too, for example, because it detracts from them attacking. Um, but other than that, like he's just like solid. He's okay. He's not broken. But when he gets ignored, He demands you to answer the question, them being on board, but he's not the highest priority. So he ends up getting a lot of life sometimes when you time him at the right
All right.
time. And I guess I kind of go over all the allies real quick. The idea behind it, I run all these allies. I think there's a 53 card deck going on right now. So I usually add about 3 allies and then three uh, either like 3 of the D react or 2 sunken treasures plus uh, the, the gem, and then maybe I'll add like one more ally. So I usually it's about 15, 16 allies in the board at all times. And then against slower matchups like Orion, you have 18 allies, maybe 19, 20 if you really want to be crazy. Um, but you need to experiment with that and see if that works for you or not, kind of situation. Um, but I was talking to a player at nationals, and he was saying, there's some allies I really like in certain matchups and really don't like in certain matchups. And I think this is what and I was like, yes, you were correct. This is why this deck has its strengths and why it has so many allies. It there are matchups where allies are absolutely broken, and there are matchups where these allies just don't do anything. So usually all these one of allies are good in specific matchups, and it's understanding those matchups by what their HP pool does or how they affect the board state and that need to be attacked, or they allow you to not get fatigued, or they allow you to block better, all those, or they allow you to like rush your opponent down, all those certain kind of things, right? They each all have their utility here and there. Um, and kind of understanding when and where those allies go in to kind of help plug up holes in your matchups. They add a lot. You go through your deck really fast, so you do see these one of allies like quite often. They show themselves quite often. You'll see it probably within like the first 6 turns at least, minimum.
And so even though Gravy Bones is a board state deck like Prism, he is in certain respects also a toolbox deck, kind of like Azalea, and it makes me want to draw a very similar, like a parallel between the two decks, in that they have an all important tutor card in the blue slot.
Right.
Azalea's got Knock the Death Whistle, so she can pack these one of arrows in situations that are perfect for it. You've got Call to the Grave, so you can pack these one of allies and call them into the mix when you really need them.
Exactly. And you can also, with Gravy discarding and drawing so much, and with having so many discard and draw effects, it almost becomes more like Chain to bring up Lord Voldemort's He Who Must Not Be Named into the chat. It's almost like playing a shadow hero, which I'd be very surprised if you don't see a shadow necromancer because of
Mm-hmm.
the way necromancer just plays in general. Um, Having that toolbox of a graveyard to choose from at all times allows for so much option in playmaking. And even just by you see your one up ally, you draw it turn 3 or 4 or 2 even early game. Draw, discard it using a golden tipple or a port side or a hero ability. You just in the graveyard for when you need it. And you can start to line up those allies with other ally combinations to create a threatening board state, or just use it for damage when you're applying pressure. And when a certain ally gets ignored, that's when a second ally will enter the board alongside it and do very funny stuff. That's why I like playing the Mage Master Boots in every matchup as well, because you still want to attack with these allies to get the advantage. I'm sure if you've watched any other Gravy Bones like deck video or article, everyone always says attack with the allies. Playing double ally pass is usually quite bad, and it is quite bad typically. You always want to be attacking with these allies to gain their front value, which is the power they have. So you only double ally when you have the extra action points, which with this deck happens a lot more often because of back alley break line. But when you are able to get those extra action points and line 2 allies up together, that's of course when any ally or board state deck becomes strong. If you're familiar with Dromai, lining up a Miragai and a Kyloria or a Azavai and a Necria, their strengths together. They're very impressive because now they're just getting a lot of combined value. So having these one ups whenever you need them kind of has the same idea. Yeah.
Okay, so at this point, Austin, I want to kind of turn to the red and blue base. And the red base is going to fly by so quickly because we've already covered Conqueror of the High Seas, most broken card ever. As you said
Yep.
yourself, there's only one other red in the deck. It's a 3 of, mind you, but that brings the total number of reds to be 6. I think because of that really annoying issue you were having in regards to missing on Chart the High Seas. So the second
Indeed.
red that made the slot is the all-powerful defense reaction Blood in the Water. Talk to me about it.
Uh, Card is good. I mean, you read card, it says you hit the top card off your deck, you get 6 value. I'm surprised they made this card. I actually, when I saw this card, I was like, Necromancer got D-React? Are you serious? That's insane. And it's insane. It's also a broken D-React. So, yeah, it's just obviously like the value on this card is through the roof when it hits, and when it doesn't, it's still 4 block D-React. I don't bring it into every matchup. There are matchups where I don't like it, but it's easier to tie with matchups I do like it. Typically, it's matchups where I want to block with 1 or 2 cards because they're going to clear allies very easily. Think think Syndra. I actually do like blocking a bit in that matchup. Or think Assassin. Decks have a lot of attack reacts. Warrior too. Kind of. I don't really bring it into Kasai when I play Colin, but that's because he knows what I'm trying to do. Against other warriors, I do.
Mm.
So yeah, like Fang, I'll bring into Fang. Assassin usually I bring it into as well. Um, it's good and it allows you not to die. It's 4 block, it becomes a 6 block, but you don't need it in every matchup. Usually slower matchups, Wizards, you can avoid. Prism, funny enough, I don't think you should bring it in anymore. I was a believer. Now I'm not too sure. I think after playing Andrew Cook and I was 1 HP away. I think you're just supposed to try and kill Prism. So probably don't bring Prism, but I think you do play it in any decks where you need to be able to out their attack reactions and such, or stop like one hit triggers and such. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about what is possibly the next most important thing besides the crew you decide to bring into each matchup, and that's the blue base. The cards that are doing the thing that Gravy needs to do in order to do the powerful thing that Gravy wants to do. So let's start with Avast G.
Yep. Vashti is a good card. It lets your allies get go again, attacking with an ally, then playing a second ally from the graveyard. This is one of the ways I was talking about. Building that double ally board state when you need to is very strong. Just kind of slowly trying to checkmate your opponent. Or if you already have established a lot of allies, then going 2 allies wide is also very good. You need to know what matchups you kind of are playing this into and how it's going to be used. So like for Florian or for Guardian or slower decks, Verdance too, where you're going to be able to have a lot of allies stick on the board for a very long time. That's when you're maybe pitching a Vast E or trying to sit on an arsenal for a turn or two and use it later so you can go ally attack to leak more damage through. But against decks that are usually able to maybe kill an ally or think like New or Cilio, uh, going an ally attack, getting that front damage first, and then playing a second ally and checkmate board state, that's when you want to use it for those matchups and such, right? Uh, you just need to know what matchups you can kind of spend turtling and building a board state, and what matchups you need to start swinging and killing them as fast as possible, and then maybe build your board state as you attack them. And Avashi is that very linchpin card. I think it's always gonna be a staple. The card's absolutely nuts. I don't play blue flying high. I know some people do. I just like this as a 3 block. I think 6 is probably overkill. Um, I wouldn't mind trying a blue flying high again in certain like if we're just on a meta where the Vasti blue flying highs are nuts. Um, but I like being able to block too. I think blocking is very important in this deck. You already have so many non-blocks, and with any ally deck, when your allies start to get ignored, you need to be able to go on that pivot defense and say, okay, well, you're going to ignore my allies. Bad move, buddy. I can actually block like 12 this hand, and now you're really losing because you just ignored all my allies, and now I can build more allies and attack you with them, and it just starts to run out of control. Then, like you're supposed to be able to punish your opponent for attacking you, but also punish your opponent for not attacking you. So having that versatility, I like the 3 block on there. Very good, very good.
Next is a
Next
card
card is
that is a 2 block, but is a late addition for you and enables the exact same thing you were just talking about. This back alley break line from Arcane Rising.
Yeah, so funny story. I didn't know how this card worked until Friday night before or Thursday night before the tournament. Um, I I read an article on Purple Discord, and I was like, "Shit, pitch zone is the zone, huh? That's pretty funny." So that's what I was already testing it. I was just all big range. But I was like, oh, I was thinking about moving to two. I was like, I'll go to two. It's only search it. And then when I was like, oh, you get hit off chart the high seas and off saltwater swell. Oh yeah, this card's absolutely good. Of course, we're playing three of it. Yeah, hitting this off saltwater and chart the high roll potential on this card is insane. Um, allows you to either play two allies and attack with one of them. Allows you to play three allies in some matchups. Um, and with like Major Master Boots or a Rum, it allows you to play two allies and attack with both of them on the same turn. Um, so the damage output can just become absolutely nuts. Like you're setting up, you're swinging with like Swabby and Sawbones, and also now you're getting their life value. You're swinging for 13. You did that all with like three cards. Like chart this and a give no quarter. I mean, we're up. So obviously a little high rolly, but I think the high roll potential is worth it. If you were going to play Iowa Fidia in their deck, just a high roll, you might as well be playing this to high roll as well. So this
Yeah,
card
and
is good.
I do want to back up and just slow down exactly how this card works so that everybody watching can really ingest it. Back Alley Breakline says, when an activated ability or action card effect puts this face up into a zone from your deck, gain 1 action point. You highlighted already, Austin, a zone. That can be Banish Zone, that can be Graveyard, that can be the Arena, that can be a Pitch Zone. What cards put cards into pitch zones? Chart the High Seas, which allows you to look at the top 2 cards of your deck, and you can pitch a blue card from among them and put the rest into your graveyard. That means Back Alley Breakline is coming into the pitch zone from your deck. That counts, and also so does Saltwater Swell, which attacks, reveals the top card of your deck, and if it's a blue, pitch it. If you want to see a beautiful example of this, you can check out Austin's feature match against Jude on New. It happens in that game, and oh my gosh, does it lead to a massive turn. So I just want to make sure everybody understands how that works, because I am with you, Austin. This is a must include in gravy.
Yeah, it's super nice to have, and it's even late game searching it off a Call to Grave. When you need to start getting your board state's been ignored or they can't deal with some stuff. It turns the game around on its head. Also breaks ALS, so that's cool. Yeah.
Okay, so next up is Call to the Grave, which we've alluded to here and there, but this is a major staple in this deck.
All I can ask, please, James White or Brian, anyone from LSS, if you're watching this, please don't ban this card. I'm begging you, please don't ban this card. It's so fun. It's so fun. If they ban this card, this deck's ruined. I can't run all these one-ups. It's not cool anymore. I'm gonna be so mad. I'll be heartbroken. Stop banning my fun cards, please. I love this card. This card's insane, absolutely nuts. I can't believe they reprinted it. It doesn't read like it's insane, and sometimes there have been times where I'm like, maybe you should go to two, but just having the ability to search any of your one of allies, I think forever is going to make the necromancer class not only very unique, but very strong, and will have a lot of like just game making or playmaker potential. But it doesn't bust it. It doesn't make the deck busted. It's not like, oh yeah, because this guy can run 3 calls to the grave, he now draws 20 cards and sets up a double ALS loop. No, it's not. It's not that. We're not doing 50 damage off a call to the grave. But it just adds like consistency and searching versatility to a deck that I think is very cool and unique. So I love this. I think it's super awesome. It allows you to play some janky allies that I normally would not really want to play, like Shelly, just because I can search them out when I need to in specific moments. And I think it has a very high skill cap on what you can do with it, like the ability to use this card. This can keep going. The more you play this deck, and the more you learn about matchups and what allies you need in certain matchups, this card just gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And it's just consistency. Whenever I got search a Chum or a Sawbones, pretty good. So
Even though you say that it's not that crazy, it's not that broken, you do still seem a little worried that it's going to get banned. Do you think it's ban worthy?
I don't know. It's tough. It depends what the other necromancers do in the future. Over time, it could become ban worthy because it is a very consistent card, but they haven't banned whatever beast card is that allows KO to draw an extra card when it's discarded, right? So surely, surely not. Um, no, it's tough because every foolish burial card effect in like Yu-Gi-Oh, other card games, usually gets hit pretty quickly. So over time, when we get more necromancers that are just doing insane stuff, maybe necromancers that have like legendary allies, being able to search those might be a little too strong.
Mm.
Um, so like the power of this card just keep going up and up over the course of the years of this game. So maybe one day I can see it happen. Right now, does it need to happen now? I don't think so. I think it's complicated, and I think it doesn't decide like it doesn't request a ban immediately. I think this Call to the Grave was balanced around it with this card in mind, but maybe in the future when they're designing cards, future necromancers, this card might become too much on the balancing team to kind of control, and they're like, we need to get rid of this card. It's too consistent, you know. But we'll see. We'll see. Right now, I think it's fine.
Next up is the card that kind of has become the entirety of your deck building. I don't know, guardrails. Chart the high seas.
Mm.
You hated whiffing on this card, and so you changed your ratios. This is the reason we're only on 6 reds. Why is it so important to hit on this card?
You know, you think with a card that has so many deck building constraints, I just take it out at this point. And I have thought about it. I thought about, you know what? Taking Trent the High Seas out, I'm playing 900 Reds like Yugi does. I thought about it. I think this card's really strong though. I mean, it's it's kind of it's very unique. One, it allows back alley break line to be like extremely powerful. So that already is like a plus in itself. The strength and turn plays you can do when you hit that card are insane. You can also against decks that you know the game's gonna go long. You can pitch the charts when you're pitching the back alleys, and they're going to start to line up together. When you're pitching both of them, you can kind of start counting out where they are in the deck and find out. Okay, I'm going to hit them on second cycle in this way in this order. You can also pocket a chart high season arsenal. It's your goal generation. It allows you to turn on all your allies while also being the blue pitch that you need. Think what's that really strong card in Dromai that let you filter cards from hand and get pitch? Get your resources.
Is it a book by
Tome of
chance?
Draconic. Yeah, I think it was a book. Yeah, it kind of gives me the same vibes. Gets your resources, get your pitch, turns on your card effects, kind of does it all, right? So it is a deck building constraint in that you don't want to play too many reds. I have hit a red on this, like I said before, even with like just 3 Conquer the High Seas, and I lost because of that. You just got to be a little careful. Try not to blindly use it. Make sure you at least know the first card on top of your deck before you throw it down. Um, but overall, I think this card's just too powerful. It's played, it's 3 block as well, and it just allows for a lot of plays that are very unique and interesting. It fills up your graveyard very quickly. I love this card. This card is good.
I am curious, Austin, after watching you use it several times in that streamed match against New, it makes me wonder if you are going to hit either 2 blues or 2 yellows on this, which of those 2 is the better outcome for you? I guess 2 allies is what I'm really saying. 2 allies, not necessarily any 2 yellows.
Usually I hit 2 blues, and that's sad. But sometimes if you hit 2 yellows, it can be a brick. So I guess the question more so the answer to that question is, can you live your turn without 3 resources?
Mm-hmm.
If by playing Chart the High Seas, if you hit 2 yellows and your turn is unplayable, then you probably don't play a Chart the High Seas. Probably just pitch it or you put it in Arsenal. But if your turn can survive without 3 pitch, and the 3 pitch is going to allow you to like play extra allies and go stupid crazy, then I play the chart. Ideally, you want to hit blue and yellow, of course. I don't mind hitting double yellow when I have enough resources, but that's if I have the resources. I usually if I'm okay on resources, then I'll play it no matter what. And like, cool, I get 2 yellows, I was fine. But if not, then I'm not going to play it. If I need this blue pitch, I'm going to act like it's just a regular card and focus on that. So you just got to be careful with it. I guess at the end of the day, hitting double yellow is probably better than hitting double blue, because I would never be playing this if I can't afford the resource costs, you know? So, yeah.
Next is another double ally enabler, and it's a big one. It's Give No Quarter.
I love this card. Yes, this card's so cool. Oh, this card's so good. Yeah, this card is nuts. This card is absolutely nuts. It's very interesting because when I first started, I'm like, this card's the most broken card ever. Wow, I can't believe you just made Tome of Divinity in a way, because it just allows you to play all your allies and board state out for free. Um, but the interesting part comes in that you're not really doing it. You need a. It's a really weird card to actually use. So you have to have either a rum or mage master boots. Otherwise, you're only actually reducing three, which means you're just actually not really reducing anything because that's how much it pitches for. So it's like a fake reduction. So you need to line this card up with certain combo pieces, either rums, which is why we play Tip the Barkeep, or Mage Master Boots. But when it lines up, this card's pretty annoying. Playing Chum and Swabby in the same turn, and then swing with the Swabby, you probably win. Pretty good. Pretty good turn. It's good. I'll take that turn. That only costs two cards plus a threads or two cards in a rum. So yeah, it's good.
Plus, like we've talked about the guardrails that Chart the High Seas puts on your deck building. I feel like Give No Quarter it kind of acts in certain similar ways because I mean like if you're playing say like a red line gravy that is only packing like the zero cost allies or something, if that becomes something in the future, then Give No Quarter probably gets cut, right? Like you almost need allies that cost three or more in order to get the full value out of this card in the first place.
Right, if you're playing a lot of low to the ground allies, this sounds good. But thankfully, Swabby and Whaler and Chump are just that good. So you end up the card ends up being played a lot more like than it should. It's a good card. It definitely sometimes doesn't line up the way you want, so you need to make sure and plan ahead of time for it. But also in matchups when it's good, like against Florian, Guardian. I keep bringing it up as Florian's the guy, but Florian stands for pretty much any slow deck
Mm-hmm.
that's like Verdance or Guardian or whatever. Uh, when you want to put double Humperdinck on board, you can pocket this in Arsenal, keep one in hand, or pitch stack to two of them because you're going to always hit second cycle against those decks. Uh, and you play both of them at the same time, you probably win the game. Uh, you know, -6 double Humperdinck with the rum go again, swing one of them, Arsenal pass. Cool. You take it. Even then, you could even play triple ally pass if you want to. So many different things. So um, I love this card a lot. Yeah, it's really good, but it does kind of add a bit of a deck building constraint, and that you need to play the bigger allies in this list, which we don't mind. And I think the bigger allies are typically the better allies, whereas the smaller allies have their situational needs in certain matchups, but they're not always required. But yeah,
Next
good
up
stuff.
is one that everybody kind of assumed was going to be a staple, kind of a glue card in Gravy Bones. It's
Mm-hmm.
Golden Tipple in the blue, and it works just as well in this deck, perhaps even better than it does in High Seas Limited.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this card's nuts. This card's absolutely broken. I love this card. As I mentioned before, I was in 6. I tried 9. I went back to 6. I went back to 3. I love this card a lot. It's really strong. I was thinking about after the weekend putting more 3 yellow ones or red ones back into the sideboard, mainly for slower matchups where I need to start building a lot of allies into the graveyard and stacking up a bunch of gold. Because there were times where I was playing and I had consistency issues in those slower decks, and I just wish I had another 3 tipples, you know. So I probably play the yellow ones first because I don't like hitting reds off chart.
Mm-hmm.
That's just me. Um, but the card is good. Again, I don't really love it into aggro matchups. The 2 damage is fine. Um, I'm not playing any sea legs in this deck, which I do think is if you're playing like 9 tempo, I think sea legs is nuts as well. Um, but for this variant, the way I'm trying to play it, the way I'm trying to like have options either go board state or aggro, I think the 3 is totally fine. And I might put 3 in a side, which we'll get into the sideboard in a bit, where I would probably put I want if I want to throw those inclusions in there. But yeah, cards nuts. Ancient card is really good. Only sad part is 2 block, and it kind of forces you into this awkward line of I need to keep a 3 card hand to play this card,
Mm-hmm.
which kind of sucks, but you know, it's what it is.
Helps that you know the top card of your deck always.
It does. It does. Actually, funny enough, so with this import side exchange we'll get to in a minute, if I have the hand, if I have like this plus a blue and an ally, I actually won't until after I play the card because usually I want to like my mindset is this and port side exchange. Typically, unless I'm gonna block with the cards, I know I'm gonna play them no matter what. Like early game, I'm gonna play these cards no matter. They're my engine cards. I need to get the gold. I need to start filtering out my hand. So early game, I won't even check the top. I will use these cards first and then check what's on top and say, okay, can I keep going with gravy? Am I start digging with gold? Am I going to use this swell in my hand? Am I going to use this rabble in my hand? Uh, how is the turn set going to go? I think the compass, I usually end up using it before I block, but I do like having the option to early game say, okay, I'm going to tipple first, and I'll find out what's up. I'll force side, then I'll find out. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, what do you think? What do you think is the difference maker for you in the sequencing there? Is it meaning that, like, okay, I have tipple in my hand and I have an ally that I want to discard with it? Like,
Mhm.
why would I need to know the top card of my deck? Because I'm going to resolve this anyway, and I can move
Yeah.
on from there. Then the decision tree is a little bit more important at that point, and I need more information.
Yeah, it just kind of depends on, again, like, am I gonna am I light on gold? Do I need the gold? Do I need the ally in graveyard? If so, I plan on no blocking no matter what. Then I won't check the top. If there's an on hit coming at me that will give disruption, and I'm kind of forced into a position if I block or I don't block, then I'll check the top card to see if I can just use the gravy ability instead. If they're just using gravy ability, um, do I have a rabble in hand? If I have a Murda's rabble in hand, I typically actually it's kind of funny. So Murda's rabble, really good card, unless my opponent's using it. Um, but it's a usually 3 for 2, and then with ley lines, it's a 0 for 6/5. Um, Usually this card hits no matter what, so I don't actually really care to check because it's going to check for me anyways. So it's kind of like a fake compass. So I can usually go rabble. Then if I want to draw the card, I can draw the card, and then I can check the compass and see if I want to keep going and see if I want to keep digging or if I need to stop. It's like a bad card, like something I don't really want to. So there are lines. There's ways that like okay, I'm going to see the top card of my deck anyways. Either draw it no matter what. I'm going to rabble. I'm not going to check the top. But if it's like chart the high seas, then I'm always going to check the top card before I play chart the high seas, preferably. Same with like swell. I'm always going to check the top card before I play a swell. Um, so you just got to know what blue cards you're going to play for the turn and how you want to, where your decision lines are going to how you want to play your turn. So, sometimes a lot of times you end up getting stuck. I have a tipple and I have a swell. Which one do I play first? Um, I don't know there's a right answer because it happens to me a lot. I'm like, do I chart first or do I play tipple? Do I chart or tipple? In that regard, if you have like swell and tipple or swell and port side or whatever, combination of I won't check and I need to check, I usually just check the first one anyways and see if it's like I want to play swell or chart first. And if it's not, I play tipple. If it is, I'll play the chart swell and then I'll play the tipple. Um, and usually, if it's like, oh, it's a yellow on top, I'm gonna play this. I'm gonna play the like if it's a yellow on top, I'll play chart. If it's a blue on top, I'll play swell. But if it's vice versa, if it's a blue on top, I'll play tipple and then chart. And if it's a yellow on top, then I play tipple and then swell. And you kind of are gambling when you do swell and chart last. So maybe it might be more personal. Maybe it's better to block. And this is why, maybe then that's where my decision brain goes, okay, I'm going to check compass on my opponent's turn. And I can figure out that entire line before actually do anything. So, yeah, fun deck. A lot of decisions.
Yeah, no kidding. I
Yeah.
It was making my head spin when I was first trying to play it in limited. Like my turn cycles were taking 7-8 minutes, and then like I just committed to learning him over the weekend in Las Vegas, and now I'm getting it, man. It's pretty damn fun.
Yeah. It's a really good time. It's a really good time. They did a really good job this year, for sure.
So next up is Loot the Hold, one of
Mhm.
the only non-attack disruptive pieces that you have at this point.
Yep. The hold is just again a disruption for aggro decks. It's super strong in terms of I need to make an aggro deck not play with a 4 card hand. Surprisingly, pretty good in a prism. I mean, I know as a prism player, I know the one thing prism likes to do is not blocking.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're presenting all these card damage and you say, "Hey, want to block?" If not, I'm taking a card from hand. They'll usually just give you the. They're like, "Fine, take it. I don't even want it." And then you're like, "Yes, excellent exchange. Thank you so much." So the hold's pretty good. Again, I like it way better than the Arsenal card. I think the Arsenal card could have a place in the future, but right now, this card is goaded. Not as good as Avasti. Sometimes you don't like. I usually end up setting it out to defensive decks. Sometimes, you can keep it into it. It's a 3 block. It kind of depends on how defensive you think your opponent's going to be over the course of the turn. You can definitely, if your opponent ever makes a mistake of blocking an attack earlier into the combat chain, you can definitely punish them with this card as a second attack. So it's good.
Next is Portside Exchange, which you've already called a engine card.
Yeah. Yep, just an engine card. Just gets your gold going. Um, Not much to really say about it. Usually use it early game, late game. The card does nothing. I guess it's probably a good time to talk about the way the blues function. So early on design, like when I was playing this deck and designing this deck, blues to me are basically invokes. So when you play a blue card, you're basically playing an invoke dragon card. Uh, and which means when you play the card, it allows you to play the card, which means any front value you get from that blue card you play is now added on top of the ally. So if I play Sawbones, I play this and I pitch a blue. Well, I did 2 card Sawbones, and then whatever blue I played to activate to make it so I can play the Sawbones. Well, Portside doesn't really give me any true value, so it's only 6 plus the life for Sawbones, which is another 2. So it's 2 card 8. Right, that's the way I look at Alex math. 2 card 8. So that's pretty unreal. Now you do go to Murder's Rabble, another next to it. Card's kind of nuts because you're attacking with a card for 3 usually, and then playing the Sawbones. Well, that's 9 value, and then get 2 value off the life. So now you just did a 2 card 11. Oh, that's pretty good. We like that. We like 2 card 11s. So Portside's like a necessary evil because you need more goal generators. I actually kind of hate the card. There was a time when in Team Chat I was like, I need to take this card out. I hate this card. It gives me no value. So cringe. Obviously, I didn't take it out because the card value hits. You need it for that engine. You need gold. But other than that, like it doesn't actually present any actual front value. But it's a 3 block, so it's good enough for now. I'm sure we'll get better necromancer cards in the future. But for now, it does what you want to do. It gets the gold. That's kind of nuts.
Next is
Speaking of
another.
necromancer cards,
Yeah. We have a necromancer card here. It is not, however, a jittery bones. You decided that the 0 cost wasn't powerful enough. We're up to 2 costs, but we're coming in at a break point. Is that maybe why this is the choice over jittery?
kind of. It's not so much a break point, but more so it is a break point, but not for my opponent's life, but for the mirror match. 4 HP is what most allies are at, so you will be killing most allies with Restless Bones, whereas Jittery Bones does not. I actually had a few mirror matches this week where I was on Restless and my opponents were on Jittery, and I could swing Restless at my opponent and then swing an ally attack at them for way more value, and they can only swing Jittery at me, and then they have to swing like Sawbone 4 HP ally. That's really cringe. Even 3 HP ally. That's super cringe. So it's really just for the mirror match. That's why I only play 2 of it. It's also a decent card when you're just trying to like throw damage at your opponent. I mean, with a ley lines 2 card 7, pretty good, I guess. Go again. So the card has its value. I only like 2 because I don't even like Jittery Bones that much because you have to discard the card off the top or from the hand. It's kind of awkward to use sometimes. Um, so I don't like that inconsistency with it. Portside Exchange is way more consistent. It gets you more value than Restless or Jittery Bones does. But at least Restless Bones will hit a Cuddy Shark. And I'm not going to get farmed by attacking my opponent because my opponent attacked me with a Jittery Bones in Swiss at Nationals on the last day. And I'm like, couldn't hit my ally. Unlucky. I want to play Sunken Treasure, bottom deck the ally you were about to play with Jittery Bones, and the game kind of just spirals out of control from there. But if there was Restless Bones, that would have never happened. So, yeah, play patterns and play lines.
Next is Saltwater Swell. One that probably explains itself, but go ahead and hit me.
Absolute cinema. Absolute cinema. This card's nuts. 3 block? I can't even believe it's 3 block. Who did this? What were they thinking in the design room? What were they doing? This card's nuts. Yeah, no, this card is so insane. You pitch a blue, you get a blue up the top, you have 5 floating resources. That is pretty good, usually about the cost for a chum, or more importantly, a sawbone, or sorry, swabby. So yeah, this one, the swabby, is usually quite good. If you hit back alley break line, now you have 2 allies, and you get to attack with one of them. So overall, the card is just like more back alley break line target hitting. If you add Eye of Ophidia, if you want to spend $50 for an Eye of Ophidia, that's pretty good target as well, top there. So overall, pretty strong card, and it's a 3 block. So we like 3 blocks. It's good. Just another engine card. One of
Speaking
my favorites, though.
speaking of 3 blocks and stuff that definitely gets you value, we've got Tip the Barkeep as our last main board blue.
Yep. So this one's important because since we don't run that many red cards in the deck, we need a way to basically combine damage on board state. In a way that's like, okay, I need to build towards this game plan where I'm swinging like double ally and killing. Tip the Barkeep allows you basically just that. You get to play double ally, swing 2 allies, usually like play an ally, Mage Master Boots, play a second ally, swing both of them, using Tip the Barkeep's rum. Late game, and against slower decks, again, as I mentioned before, very important for setting up double whaler churns plus the sawbones. It's just overall really good. And also, the most important part of it, with this and the Fabled that we have in the sideboard, I'll just kind of cut to the chase now. The big spoiler alert. This allows you to not get Omega fatigued by Jarl. So if Jarl blows up your compass early, you can basically go, okay, if you have 1 gold on board already, you can go Tip the Barkeep, give him the gold, play ally from graveyard, using riches and resting your hero ability with the rum that you just got. Riches gets you a gold. You play your second ally. Do it again next turn. Do it again next turn. Do it again next turn. Now, granted, this is more of a late game thing, so you need to actually have you have to kind of go through your deck a lot, and then you start playing all your allies. You have to block a lot, but thankfully we play a lot of 3 blocks, so we don't mind kind of slowly whittling out the game there. And when you're shuffling the deck a lot with your Calls to the Graves as well, the riches starts to float back to the top there, and the tip the Barkeeps they keep putting into the deck start to float back to the top. So it happens a lot, even with like 20, 18, 15 cards in deck. You'd be surprised how often you kind of start looping them over and over again. And then eventually you get down to your last few cards in deck, and every single turn is now double ally. And if you blocked enough, you have enough life pool to kind of start taking it, so they can't just rush you down. And then you can end up just playing all your allies and eventually building a board state where I swing double ally, swing double ally. It gets really close, but it's just that it gives you that extra little push to when your compass is dead to put enough allies up, start to overwhelm the guardian. Especially since their just whole entire plan is to kill your compass. They're probably not running all the go again cards, so then they really can't deal with allies, and that's when it gets out of hand pretty quick.
All right, that does it for the main board blues. We've got 3 in the side. Diamond Amulet, we've already talked about, but it's far and away the most powerful amulet, like you said. Anything else to say on this card?
Not really. Card is good. I like bringing slow matchups, but that's about it. I bring that in. I usually also bring in slow matchups like Whalers, Diamond Amulet. Going up, I actually don't think we talked about today that much, but I mean, there's not much really to say about it. We just bring in slow matchups as well. Shimmers is OP, so surely a ally Shimmers has to be OP, right? Um, Card is good when I use it. I was at 3, I went down to 2. I just like being able to stack counters on cards, and putting this next to a Whaler usually means Moray's getting ignored for the Whaler, and then Moray's going to stack 2 counters already on 1 card by that time that she's alive. And then are you going to ignore Moray, or are you going to attack the card with 2 counters? Some people get baited into making their own decision, and then she starts to really spiral out of control. And Limpet acts as that third kind of Moray, but not really. She's really good into decks that, again, don't want to deal with allies. Putting 2 of them on board is kind of annoying. I don't really. She's okay in Assassin. She's okay. I don't think I really brought her an Assassin this weekend, but I think you can make an argument against Mario, who wants to throw a big dagger at you anyways. That Limp is better. Whereas New, you don't want to bring into New because she's going to immediately slam a dagger against that and get going. Bad news. Bad news. So Mario probably is okay, but I usually bring it again in the slower decks as well. And you know that's why I end up cutting the Ankas, because I'm sure as you watch this video, I put a lot of decks and a lot of card allies in for slow matchups, which means Anka is the card that usually gets cut in those matchups. Even though it's a good card, I need more slots for more one of whatnot allies, and that's why you should go up to 18 there, maybe 20 depending if they're really slow. Like maybe for dance, I'm just trying to like block out for dance, play a bunch of allies, AB3, yeah, all that fun stuff. Yes. Sunken Treasure. I bring this into any decks that usually run yellows. Mirror match is absolutely backbreaking in the mirror match. I think both times in the mirror match over this weekend, I played this card turn 2, and the game ended up like 30-10 at some point. Like killing their first ally, they couldn't even attack my other ally, and the game just spiraled out of control. Like they couldn't kill an ally. I had 2 allies on board, and they spent the entire game on defense while I had one whole turn playing offense with double allies. And insane. So card's nuts. Also really good into any dagger-based deck that wants to pick up their daggers from the graveyard. The amount of times I've turned a dagger face down on Syndra, bye-bye. uh, so that's always quite fun to do.
There's
Yeah.
two things I want to talk about in regards to this card. The first is that one of the things I've noticed about our board state cabal at the AG Pro team is that when a new board state hero comes out, one of the first things you guys start talking about really intensely is the mirror match, and I think that's more than other heroes in this game. Board state heroes seem to kind of hinge on their mirror matches a little bit more intensely. Would you say that's true?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's because of the inherent popularity of board state heroes typically as well. So I would not be. I mean, Gravy had 25 players, and no one even really had to figure it out. They were still like working on them, right? Imagine when Gravy's figured. He's like solved, quote unquote. He's going to be so popular,
Mm-hmm.
and it's mirror matches tend to be like all based on like the tech that you run for the mirror, on top of just because it's kind of like mirror matches are usually for board state decks so awful. They're so bad. So when you have certain tech cards like Sunken Treasure that kind of blows up the mirror, or Scuba, you drop a Scuba turn 1, you call to a grave of Scuba. Uh, your opponent's like, oh, I just lost the game. You're like, yeah, you might have just lost this game actually. You don't have any allies in graveyard, and now you don't. I have gold, and I'm also gold hooked to you because I made a gold off Scuba. And you're done. And Sunken Treasure punishes your opponent for misplaying and either getting rid of their allies too early or having to play Golden Tipple, for example, and throw it at you because you haven't played any allies yet. And then you banish their only ally that they were going to play for the turn. And now you're free to set up a double ally next turn and swing that at your face. And it gets out of snowballs really quick. So, yeah, we definitely like to make sure we have our anti board state stuff. And I think this card is going to be that card where if you're playing in the mirror, you're going to be quite happy. You're going to be quite annoyed, and it's going to become quite toxic quite quick. So, good
My
card.
my second question about this card, Austin, is I think like if a layman were to look at this card and then look at the rest of the high seas set, they might think, wait, why would I run this when it gives my opponent agency to not attack me and maybe my allies instead? Why wouldn't I be running Seafloor Salvage so that I'm doing it affirmatively? But
Mm-hmm.
it's a block card, so it has the ability to disrupt your opponent's turn. Is that why it's making the sideboard rather than Seafloor Salvage?
Exactly. C4 salvage can't be used midway through your opponent's attack phase. And every time I've used this card, it's when my opponent has forced to attack me because usually you want to play the when you're playing the ally mirror, you want to be the same person. Is what it feels like typically. Um, so when you're running Second Treasure, being able to pop their allies feels quite nice. Having them face down while they're mid attack combo, they lose their only ally they can attack with. It's quite annoying. Whereas Sequel Salvage is really easy to kind of navigate in a way that's like it's only good and later in the game when your opponent already has a stack of allies in the graveyard to start off with. Plus, Seaport Salvage is only really good in the mirror, whereas this card is good in the mirror on top of good into. I play it into Syndra. I'll play it into Slippy. I've played it into decks that run just random yellows. You'll play it like into. Oh, gosh, I'm trying
It's
to
got to
think.
be good into Prism, right?
Yeah, you can play into Prism for sure. Again, I don't really like blocking into Prism that much, but you decide to take that strategy route. I think it's quite good. I actually in Prism, I don't even block with Conquer the High Seas anymore.
Hmm.
Fun fact, I just throw it up. I don't. I say you can have. You're gonna farm my allies anyways. Take it. I'll take the damage. I'm gonna kill you with this instead.
Hmm.
So I don't really bring block cards in that matchup, but like when you do bring it in, like against decks that end up running like an abundance of yellows, I bring it to like I'll bring in a Florian because I'll try not to play some allies for the first few turns of the game. In worst case scenario, you don't block with it. That's fine. I'll pitch it. I'll discard it with Gravy Bones. It's not the worst card I can have in my deck. I'm already running 3 Back Alley Breakline. Like that card does nothing when I draw it. I'll be fine with 2 second treasures. But I only bring in the sideboard sometimes, so.
All right, we've
Yep,
come to
yep.
the last card in the deck, Austin, and it's a good one.
Yes,
Throw
over here.
caution to the wind. I think nobody would have been high on this card coming into the Las Vegas weekend, but another spoiler alert: it came in clutch in your match against New on stream.
It did, and my boy in the top 8 was running it, so he's a knower. He's a knower. I believe he was running it at least. That's what the
I think he
cast was
was too.
saying when he
Yeah.
was. Yeah, yeah. The card's good. Card is good. I mean, it's a blue D react, right? It's a blue block 3 D react at instant speed that can also block arcane damage. So that in itself is already like, wait a minute, how is that not kind of powerful? On arcane, blocking arcane damage and speed for 0 cost. You can always make sure the card on top of your deck is the right thing. You can always pocket it for later. I like the card a lot. I love playing instant speed cards too, so I'm always a big fan of these kind of stuff. Now, there is an argument for when I try out the yellow tipples, maybe Throw Kashi comes out and it gets removed alongside maybe like one of the allies, one of allies, like maybe unfortunately Shelly,
Mm.
or something just like not really performing as well. Maybe I don't know, probably Shelly. um, and just adding in 3 yellow tipples instead. That's what was there before. So I'd be just basically going back to the yellow tipples, but now it just be in sideboard instead of the main board all the time. But overall, I like this card a lot. Astilio was really popular leading up to this weekend. People were talking about him a lot. Kano, people always are talking about him for an event. And then for dance, I mean, it's solid into a dance combo as well. Just being able to stop some of that damage that typically they might go over on, and then it will leak into like some devastating effects. Like Astilio, you don't really want to bring a lot of AB into anyways. And then Kano is going to stop it. Well, it won't stop wildfire combo turns, but it'll make it so they have to sequence it differently. So you're forcing your Kano player to do basically an extra step of layer math that they weren't really doing initially when they're doing their pop turn, and it might just blow up their entire turn because he's mentally kaboom, or they might not be able to like do the turn sequence they want to do. So it's pretty cool. Cool card. I like it a lot. Plus arts.
That's the 80, Austin. Other than these 3 pieces of null rune in the inventory, which I think seems pretty darn standard at this point. Anything to say about the AB3 inclusion?
Not much. It's tough because our equipment is really important. So I understand why, like for example, the top 8 player in final game, why he brought AB0. I understand why he did it. It's important, but I think it's like a necessary evil. You just go, oh man, that sucks. I have to lose some of my best armor equipment and play AB3 because honestly, wizards have always struggled into board state decks. So like just think of it this way: I'm a board state deck. I played 36 plus blues. I Enigma did the exact same thing. You just sit there with AB3, you block out, you sit there with board state, you like figure it out. I also play a lot of like since I play towards that fatigue end game style, which I don't think a lot of game. I think a lot of gravy players right now are just like trying to kill your opponent and attack them. But since I'm trying to set up maybe a board state my opponent can't disrupt or deal with, and just overwhelm them with dudes that are always going to have their place here and there, AB3 is really obnoxious because it might be really difficult for them to deal with certain allies. Like if I play double whaler plus a moray, that might just be it. They're like, oh, I actually can't deal with that. Well, I'm gonna try and kill you. I can't. I have AB3. Like, it's not gonna like. It's not like AB3 is the magical cure. But now you as maybe the Verdansk player need to set up combo and combo me. But are you really bringing combo into the matchup? Maybe you might be trying to go more attack oriented like Majin did in the finals. In which case, you're playing against Majin, brought all these attacks, trying to kill you, and it's not playing like the H bots anymore into the matchup. Now you're just like, cool. Now you actually, I don't think you can kill me. I
Hmm.
can just keep blocking 3 and A being whenever I need to, and put all these allies you have to deal with eventually. Otherwise, Boar State goes nuts. So that's been my plan so far, and it's worked out quite well, especially with the throw cautions. Now I've been thinking about maybe replacing the gloves for chess piece, um, because the one extra resource you get off the chess piece, while it is really good, it doesn't always feel essential to the game plan. You can work around having the extra resource, especially if you're not playing Mage Master boots, which is like the main point of it. Um, so maybe instead we run AB chests or AB arms, and then you're able to run the arm piece still that gets you the gold, and you're able to constantly just keep forcing that pressure with gold on hit on top of AB3. That might actually be insane. And that's what I was leaning towards. I didn't get a chance to test it before. I didn't even fight really many wizards that required it. But going into the future, that is something I would consider testing because the chess piece, while it is really strong, the deck has enough resources to work without it. Um, and you should be fine compared to as a gold beta hook almost makes this deck play like a completely different game plan. So something worth trying out, I think.
With that, Austin, we're going to do a mini story time and go over your matchups for the weekend. Pardon my
Absolutely.
slideshow; I'm on the wrong one here. But now we're there. Classic Constructed, Swiss Day 1 Friday. We're going to zoom through this because we have one more special segment before we say goodbye. And we're already getting up there. But we knew this was going to be a yap session.
Zoom.
This is a brand new hero, Austin. We got to give it its due.
Of course.
Okay, so
Of course.
first 5 rounds, easy wash.
Yep.
You crush all 5 of them. Every single one of these seems like comfortable matchups based on what you said about the way you built the deck. The one that kind of gives me pause is round 3 Acilio. Are you nervous about this matchup at all?
Yeah, this matchup isn't fun. I play against Alex Gore a lot. I'm sure maybe do a deck video with him. You saw he was doing quite well with Acilio himself. The deck's scary. They pop off early. They go kind of nuts. So you kind of have to pop off back and just do some pretty insane plays. I think my turn 1, he went first. My turn 1, he had an arsenal. I conquered the high seas. I activated my gloves immediately. I didn't even block with him yet. I just threw him. I said, hey, you want to block these? If you do, I lose 1 HP. And sure enough, he blocked them. And I was happy about that trade because I needed him not to have a full card hand going into the next turn cycle. And if his arsenal was an instant speed card, I immediately lose so much tempo. Like, I all I do is 8 damage. Like, who cares? Great, I do 8 damage against Cecilia. He doesn't care. It's kind of like it doesn't matter to him. So I need to like start to try and grab tempo. And so he blocked, and he did have an instant in the arsenal, but he decided to block anyway so he could blow up my gloves and stop forcing the pressure, which is a good play on his part. But now I don't have to worry about 4 card hand or 5 card hands in the next turn cycle, and now I can start playing my game and doing my stuff. So that's how I ended up getting that game state under control. I just kept throwing pressure at him and making him say, you need to block this. I think there was a turn where I went like Swabby into loot the hold. And it's just like, I see. So stuff like that, definitely pretty impactful, I think, against Cecilia.
The next one we've got to touch on is round 5 versus Jude on New, which is available for all of our viewers to watch. It is up on the U.S. national stream, and it was an epic game to behold. Austin had some really gnarly high rolls here and there, but also kind of made me think this is basically what you were doing all week.
Yeah, it definitely. So I have a little secret to let you in on, Bryce. You ready?
Hit me.
You're not going to like it. This is the second time I played against New with Gravy. I know on the camera it was watching it. But they were like, pretty sure Austin had a lot of plans in the New, and I'm like, I haven't played this matchup at all. I haven't had time. I didn't have time. But the thing is, the reason why I was okay with this fact is because I have played so many board states and decks in the New before. I have played, I've played Dromai into Assassins and Alexi. I played Prism into obviously Assassins for so long. So I understand the concept of the matchup. And I understood, okay, they have 3. They don't really like clearing allies. They have 3. Didn't like 4s HP-wise. Usually it takes 3 cards to clear a 4 HP ally, which is insane. And I knew, the blues were going to kind of bite me at a point, which they did hurt. But I would eventually be able to set up a board state where, like, okay, they can't deal with this, and I have enough reactions with throw caution to the wind and a D-react that I can navigate this well enough that as long as my deck doesn't just completely brick on me, which I was worried because it wasn't – the first few turns were not hot. But when they need to line up, they line up perfectly. So
I'm glad you mentioned it, Austin, because one of the things I wrote down about this match is there were probably like 3 or 4 turns where you're drawing all blues. So basically non-functioning hands. And I remember you giving a cheer to the camera, essentially, when you finally had a turn you could play out and you were welcomed into the game. But you were able to put a damper on the damage that was coming your way. despite the fact that after you really had your first turn in the game and did some really awesome board state setup, you got hit by like a double rum turn. Like, yeah, he played 2 tip the barkeeps, several blue attacks from your own banished zone into CNC, into leave no witnesses, but that didn't stop you.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, no, it was nice. Thankfully, I look at CNC. So from every time I've ever played Assassin with any board state deck, I look at double CNC turns as time free. This is the turn where I pop off, and thankfully, I had the cards in hand to pop off. Whenever I play Enigma into like Assassin, for example, uh, and they're throwing hand disruption after hand disruption, you're like, all right, instant speed, whatever. But eventually, they only got stuff to throw damage and Arsenal hate, and you can lose your Arsenal and say, this is it. This is the time I come back to the game. Arsenal, like I said, Arsenal destruction sucks. It's not the end of the world. Usually your 4-card hand is what can end up making or breaking a lot of stuff, and that's the moment I was able to pivot. And thankfully, because I run a bunch of 3 blocks and I was making 2 blocks, as I was mentioning earlier, I didn't have awkward hand textures or compositions, so I was able to block out the first 3 turns with 3 blocks and just keep blocking over and over and over until I find that turn cycle of double ally, triple ally. Please answer this, or you might end up losing the game right now. So, yep, that's good. Ideally, you want to be throwing double ally out turn 1. If it was my way, my turn 1 would win double ally. Fortunately, I drew 3 swells into double took the barkeep. I'm just like, this is so bad. This is so bad. So,
And besides
yeah.
those first several turns of the game, there was some variance that was not going the assassin's way as well. There was a Art of Desire Mind that connected with you and banished 2 yellows off the top, netting no card draws and basically just a pass from the assassin player.
Yep.
There was a Siren's Call that you sniffed out brilliantly, blocked with the 1 blue in your hand. And then I think that led into you drawing into Throw Caution to the Wind on your turn, arsenaling it for later, then blocking out a Persuasive Prognosis with it. It was a masterclass in how to handle Assassin, despite the fact that it was the second time you played the matchup.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny because I say it's the second time, and it really was, but I played Assassin versus board state decks for years now. So to me, I'm like, oh, this is a day. This is classic Austin versus illusionist versus board state deck. So I wasn't worried sitting down. I wasn't like sweating. I was like, okay, I understand how this match is supposed to probably go. I just need to navigate that. And round 2, especially, I did the exact same thing, and I actually was able to put the allies on board a lot quicker. And I had a lot more high roll going on in that game, especially. So I understood kind of what I was looking for, and I was able to talk with the new player afterwards. And I said, "What do you usually try and do?" So I could understand more of what the game matchup was on the new side, and what it was kind of what I expected. They just try and throw damage to disrupt you, and eventually like make it so you're locked out of the game. So I knew going forward, I was like, all right, well, against Jude, I'd have to probably need to block out a lot so they can't get that damage early. And then when it's time for me to pop off and they have a weaker hand, that's when I'm going to say, I'll take all this damage. Now here's my board. Let's play the game. Let's play some flesh and blood. So, yeah, that's cool. It's a fun matchup for sure. Actually, we both had a really good time playing it. I think we thoroughly enjoyed the matchup. So that was a good one. That was fun.
Yeah, I cannot recommend viewing that match enough. It was a blast. It was a blast for Gravy Bones on the scene for sure. Let's touch briefly on your draft record, Austin, because it was probably the most tumultuous time of your tournament run, besides being knocked out of top 8. But you nevertheless managed to play Gravy Bones for 15 rounds straight over the course of the weekend. Were you determined to do this when you first came into draft?
Absolutely. There's a lot of factors. I do understand the draft format to a degree. There's only my biggest weaknesses, much like many players over the weekend, I believe. I don't understand Puffin. I think a lot of players didn't understand Puffin. I accept that I didn't understand Puffin. I wasn't smart enough to figure it out on the day. I've had tournaments where I try to figure out a draft deck on the day. It doesn't work out. I understand kind of like the concept of what she's trying to do, but she's really hard to get to play. I think for anyone in future nationals, if you want to win, you should probably try and figure out how to play this Puffin hero. And you'll probably do quite far if you can actually figure her out. But she has difficult play lines and deck building restrictions compared to the other two, who are very easy to keep open and flexible. And because of that, I decided I'm just gonna play Gravy Bones. I'm the Gravy Bones. Obviously, going into first day of draft, I'm the Gravy Bones only undefeated at that point. So you're really gonna try and challenge me on that? If so, whatever. Pack one, pick one, blue jittery bones. Quite the meme. Yeah, it was awful. It was so bad, such a bad pick. But It was only necromancer card in the pack, so it told the 5 people in front of me don't play it, which it did. So my pack 2 was insane. Um, and I felt like day 1 the deck was good enough for a 2-1. Day 2, wow,
Mm-hmm.
that deck was so bad. That deck was so bad. Majin was passing to me, and he said, "You think you're the gravy guy? I'm the gravy guy." Well, he was the gravy guy apparently. Took the deck right under, and 2 seats down, Matthew Vore also went gravy, and I'm like, guys, why you all hate me? And then Bird was gonna go gravy, and then got the scurv. So it was gonna be a 4 gravy table, and I would have definitely been absolutely doomed. But thankfully, scurv pivot, I got a few more gravy cards there. My deck day 2 was so bad, but I am known for being the guy who makes really bad draft decks work. Just keep a poker face, find a combo, find whatever combo your deck can do, or whatever line your deck can take and make it happen. Day 1, the combo was I have sloop in my deck. I have a yellow sloop. I'm going to draw that in the pitch deck, and I'm going to win the game right there. It worked for 2 of them. And then for day 2, my deck was so bad. It was all yellows and blues. But it's okay because I had a scuba and I had a yellow sirens and I had a yellow fiddler's green. So I kept, and I had a few yellow 3 blocks and I had 2 Shellys. So even those are like, the combination of all those cards are bad, but you put them all together. And I made like this yellow blocking fatigue like life loop deck. That at a point my opponents figured out it was too late by the time I started doing it. Like when I would like, oh, yeah, I'll block with this yellow fiddler's green, I'll gain 2 life. Like, oh, Shelly, block for 4. Like, uh-huh. And they look at my deck like, oh, this guy's going to deck down. Just keep forcing cards from his hand. But I start scooping, and I'm like, put the yellow 3 block back. They're like, all right, whatever. Should put the yellow fiddler's green back. They're like, wait a minute. Should put the yellow sirens back. And they're like, well, it's too late. I got to kill him now. I block with the fiddler's green again. I put it back on deck, and then we'll just this game. So I ended up doing that against Lucas in round 10. I thought I was like, wow, I got there. Um, yeah, it was a funny game. He was a good sport about it though, so that was good. I was just like, that was I can't. I'm like, I'm doing it. I'm comboing. And then against round 11 was Gravy Mirror, and it was against Matthew. And actually, I was able just to have control over the game because his deck was also quite bad. I think both had really bad decks. And I drafted the Go Again boots really early, the peg leg, like pack 1, pick 3 or something. And I was just like, yeah, this card's gonna be needed at some point. And I just started throwing a bunch of Go Again. I just tried to hit him as hard and fast as possible. And I drew the right cards in the right order, get in the game. But yeah, overall, I really like this draft. Actually, I'm a little sad. I kind of wish we actually did have a bit more time for nationals to, experiment with this stuff because even though I'm a very quick adopter of new cards, I think personally I pick up new cards really quickly and understand how they work. I mean, obviously, gravy bonus here, right? So we have a lot more time to work with them. I kind of wish I had a bit more time to this draft format because I'm not going to be able to play this draft format anymore after Japan in next week. So I'm gonna miss it, but it was a really fun draft format. How they do more stuff like it again. It's a good time. Yeah, they did a really good job with this one.
Definitely a lesson in resiliency and a mark of a good drafter, Austin. When you first
Absolutely.
told me about that yellow fiddler screen tech, I was laughing my ass off in the tournament hall.
It
Oh
was
my
so
god!
fun.
Wait, we also have to
Yeah.
mention that you had a cracked bobble in that deck, right?
No, I didn't. I did not.
Oh, thank
Thankfully,
goodness.
that would have
Okay.
been terrible. I was close. I had exactly 30 cards,
Holy
so it was
cow!
close. It was bad. It was not a good draft deck, but I made it work. I found a win con. I looked through all my cards. I'm like, okay, this junk it can work, but it's gonna only work sometimes. Against Scurv puts out way too much damage output. He's too strong. But the other two, I could make work. And Puffin, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know what's wrong with Puffin. I don't understand. Like, I think both Puffins went 0-3 in my pod, both
Fascinating.
days.
Yeah.
So I just, and like Lucas had a good deck. The guy I passed to, round 7, I played against that one. Uh, his deck was insane. He had like 2 Majestics, an Aeronaut, like multiple Skimmers and Skiffs and Zeppelins. I'm like, there's no way I win this. I still won. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know. The Puffin draft deck needs to be cracked, and I'm sure whoever cracks it probably easily 3-0 their pods, but
Hmm.
yeah, it's quite something. So
Moving on
yep.
to the continuation of day 2, when we go back to CC, you've got 4 rounds left to play. You are all but locked for top 8 if you can take two of these early, but unfortunately it's 2 losses straight away in round 12 and round 13. I was watching round 12 and it was an incredibly close against top 8 competitor Andrew Cook.
Yep. That one kind of hurt. They repaired the rounds. My round 12 was supposed to be Florian, and they repaired it. And I'm playing the only Prism. And I'm like, great. The matchup was close. I think I brought in Whaler, and it should have been any of my free attacking or my zero cost attacking allies or my. So it should have been basically. I think I had 2 Whaler in the list. I should have been Rigor Mortis, and it should have been uh Poison as well. I think. Reason being, or Limpet even. But reason being is I was just a few points off, and I rushed him down to 1. He brought in Vestige, which I usually think is quite correct. But because of that, I'm like, okay, I just need to rush him down, kill him now. I'll hold my seat, conquer the high seas, I'll throw him at him, just try and do as much damage. I drew a little better early game. He drew really bad early game, but I drew terribly early late game, and he had all the sauce, and it was there. And all I remember is I had one more ally in the graveyard. I had Sawbones, and I had a Whaler, and I had a blue, and I had a it was a Call to the Grave. So if I just had one more ally that wasn't Whaler that I could swing with, I could have actually put the damage board to swing at him and kill him. But so close, so close. That was a tough one, but I was glad I at least got one. Maybe the matchup is doable, but you might just have to kind of go like Boonga, throw it at your opponent. It's kind of like how Prism into Enigma was really unfavored for Prism, but it's winnable if you get a little lucky. So maybe that's the thing there. Yeah,
So,
and then Kasai round 13 there. I'm sure if anyone's watching, it was against Colin there, a good old teammate. Fortunately, went to time. It's really close. I think we both had like, I'm not sure if you were there to watch it, Bryce. I think he had like 3 cards in deck. I had like 5. But life was 18. I was 18. He was at 1. I had a whale. He had his 2 little buddies on board, mercenaries. It was a weird game state because I wasn't sure what was in his arsenal. And I'm like, all right, if he thinks he has a sword, he wins this game. But if he doesn't, he loses. So I just have to say, I says, and we go from there. He thought he would draw into because he had a gold he made off the Fable, so he thought he was going to draw into the Go Again draw along, and he thought that was his next card. The judge would not let him see what that card was, even though he had it off the top of his deck and it was already mid drawing it. Time rulings in this game are really bad.
yeah.
They should really be fixed, in my opinion. I think you should be able to concede whenever, or you should at least like have 4 turns to play the game out. Like, come on. It's just that's the only thing. I love this game. I love everything about this game. It's not my favorite card game in the market. The time rulings need a second look, and we've been asking for years. Please, somebody look at these time rulings. They are so bad. And because of it, the judges won't let him do anything. They wouldn't let him check anything. He asked a question to see if he could do anything. Nope. And then when I was like, all right, well, let me just look at the graveyard real quick, the judge said, you need to hurry up and make a decision right now. And I was like, okay, fine. And it kind of just made us play, like, made me figure out on the play, even though I had no time to look and he had all the time to decide. So I decided I'll concede because I don't want us to get double loss and really screw over all of Team AG. And then turns out the card on top wasn't a go-again card in that game. I just waited for him to kill Whaler. So it was pretty frustrating. I thought he had the go. We talked about it after and how we should have like really handled that, but it is what it is. If I play a little faster, I would have got it. If I didn't misplay, maybe if I slept a bit more that night, and if I didn't misplay I could look at the game win board state a little earlier instead of the play. I made a play earlier that didn't win me the game. I just conserved those resources a bit for this turn after. Maybe I would have got there. There's no telling, but it is what it is. I'm still really happy with what I did with the deck. And there's no telling what I would have fought because there was a Kano in the top tables. And while you can't beat Kano, it's Kano. So you sometimes get blown up. Alex running around for Cilio. I could have got blown up by a Cilio around 14, 15. So I'm not going to hold against him. It is what it is. I'm more so upset at LSS. This time ruling, please.
Yeah.
So bad. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough situation. Team kills in general are always not something you want to see. The saving grace, however, is that especially when you're at the top tables fighting for win-and-ins like this, it guarantees that one of the boys is going to make it one step further.
Yeah.
Which unfortunately, Colin Erickson then falls to an Azalea thereafter and misses his chance for top 8. Nevertheless, an amazing weekend for AGE and for yourself.
Yeah, we got a lot of people in the top there. We did a good job this week, so I was bummed, but it is what it is. I play card games for fun. I'm unlucky, but there'll be another tournament. There'll be another necromancer. There'll be another day. It'll be
And,
fine.
and even though you get knocked out in that really tense situation, it doesn't shake your resolve, and you come out swinging, rocking yet another Gravy Bones in round 14, and taking down an Azalea in round 15 for an incredible finish.
Yep. Yeah, the Gravy Mirror and the Azalea weren't too bad. The mirror match was my first mirror, but again, I kind of understood. Okay, it's probably just Dromai. It was just kind of Dromai, but even a little worse because there's more graveyard interaction. You're more aggressive, so that was interesting. And then Azalea is board state stuff. You put on a board state, make them answer the questions, and eventually they can't answer the question anymore. Even if they have endless arrow, like all right, they can only shoot endless arrow once, maybe twice, if they pop their boots. Like you put double ally out, they can't keep dealing with it. You just don't swing. Like I think we were saying, oh, what do you do when they endless arrow all your allies? Like, why do you keep attacking with your one ally? Just pass. Just play double ally pass. Do that 3 times in a row. Now you have 3 allies on boards because they can't kill 3 allies in a row. But this it was on new, so they actually maybe could have fatigued me. It was a little scary. Interesting. Overall, I think the hardest match was definitely for that Prism on round 12. And then actually, funny enough, I know we're a little passive, but on day 1 there was a Florian, which maybe you heard about. There's a play against Noah Bigman. Yeah, round 4 there, play against Noah there. That game was so tough. Oh, his deck was so good. It was like built to like basically beat Gravy Bones, like because it has so much go again comparatively to most Florians. Running both the channels, I'm sure him and his team will have a video about that eventually, but so much go again. I think if the Florians start to build all these go again cards for Gravy, definitely when you look at another strategy, maybe the red line list becomes important there, or having some more go again attacks. Might need to attack that deck at a different angle when all the go again cards are added, because they can definitely just kill you. I think we played in the Battle Armor the next day, and it's definitely a tougher matchup. You can get there if you get the better cards earlier on, make them force attack the allies, but it can be rough. So deck is still needs some tweaks, but we'll get there. We're close. I
Not
like where we're
bad.
at.
Not bad for a first go there, Austin. And so at this
Not bad.
point, you were in the same pool as a bunch of other players that were hell-bent on figuring this deck out. And I want to take a look at a couple of the decks of those people, starting first with Jacob Shaker, who was our U.S. Nationals finalist on Gravy Bones as well. He eclipsed you in the standings, but his deck list is incredibly different than yours. We've talked about it a little bit, specifically in regards to the finals against Majin, where he brought in AB0, you would have brought in AB3. But it's not just that is different about this deck. There's an Eye of Ophidia in here. There are several more amulets in comparison to yours, as well as a ton more reds and less allies. He's on 21 here versus your 24. Talk to me about what you see here.
Yep. No, for sure. So again, this is like kind of like the first list we went over at the very beginning of this video. It has a lot of similar vibes going on. I've tried pretty much all these combination of cards except for the Eye of Ophidia. Again, I didn't know. It didn't even occur to me. My brain didn't even connect that processing pitch thing, and I was like, that's broken. If I had an Eye of Ophidia, would I add it to my deck the day before? Probably, unfortunately. But is it necessary? Probably. You don't need it. I mean, obviously, I didn't. But having that option to opt and then chart the high seas, probably pretty broken. Being able to opt into a swell and then ordering to see if you have a back alley break line on top of your deck, go 3 cards deep to see if you have a back alley break line is probably pretty good. And then just hitting this off a chart or a swell is also quite strong when you're trying to line up your next few turns and hand cycles. So hitting the card is quite good. Other than that, the amulets again, I don't really care for, and maybe that is a different kind of gameplay style or way that he likes to handle things. I just don't care for them myself that much, except the diamond one, which is obviously like strong. I just don't really care for the play lines that they bring. I kind of like the way the deck has been working so far. Maybe I need to give them another test go around, but whenever I did have them, I just like already have. When you he has 21 allies, right? And I have 23. I think you said. When you combine
24.
his
Yeah,
amulet,
yeah.
yeah. When you combine our amulet counts, we basically have the same non-blocks. So I just basically turn those amulets into this,
Mm.
effectively as well. I like to have more ally options on my sideboard. I feel that by having your sideboard slots are so limited. So if you're going to have limited slots, you might as well have the limited sideboard slots be searchable. So you have a lot more choices matchups compared to other decks that have to like spend 3 cards just to see the matchup, right? Like you spend 1 card, 2 cards, and a matchup and not worry about it. Uh, but yeah, the amulets are good. I see their value. Same with amulet +2 strong turns, strong 1 card turns there. Um, he plays only one back alley break line, I believe.
That according to this list, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I get it. I consider two at a point myself. I don't think he plays swell. I don't think there's any swell in his list though,
No.
from what I see. So that makes sense. Like if you're not playing swell, what's the point? You're only using it for call.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are playing swell, right? If you're playing swell and chart, you might just play the back alley break line, start to go crazy, go stupid. I remember reading his article, and I think he said he didn't really care for after playing it the sideboard slots. He felt his main 60, his core was strong, but he didn't really care for his sideboard stuff like command and conquer, and that's all you got and such. Oh, again, I think he's coming to the same conclusion I did last week, where I started taking those cards out after probably playing it this weekend. And he said he spent a lot also figuring out the draft as well, whereas I ignored the draft and had all the extra time focusing on the CC list. So I think maybe we'd probably come to a lot closer list as well. He's already like in the same trade, right? So I think they are definitely like solid options in the deck, but maybe they don't offer lead. But overall, everything else is classic. It's good. Golden Tipples, I might even go back on myself. And I might bump up the limpets as well again. Um, maybe add a second limpet there. Um, but yeah, like for my list personally, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, overall, I really like the Iowa Fitty. I've been thinking behind that myself. I didn't even think about that. So very clever on his part.
Next up is the
So
battle hardened winner, Brody Spurlock, who is no
uh,
stranger to the stage. And like a typical Brody Spurlock list, it is loaded out with clothes.
yeah, he's got 2 wardrobes, brought a suitcase.
Straight up.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's dope. It's dope. I like it. I think when the decks get a bit more refined, I think maybe this might be the direction they end up heading is heading equipment as well. It's funny actually, equipment when you look at sideboard slots, it's the same thing I'm talking about the allies, right? So having these one ofs in equipment are basically guaranteed sideboard slots for you because you'll always see these equipments when you need them. But since I run one of allies, the idea behind it is they're searchable. So they're my versions of one of equipment that I can search
Mm.
if matchups that I need them for. So I think in a way we kind of have the same idea. I just really like the equipment running, and I don't really like messing with it. I'm curious if he enjoyed that equipment, so like the Crown of Providence, if he really that much. Not the Master Justice, the Arcanic chess piece as well. If he really bought those in as much, or if he just kind of skipped on it, I'm curious how much he really liked that or not. As for everything else, though, I believe it's kind of similar. You sync blows as well. I think I tried sync blows for a time. Um, it's interesting he runs those over other D reacts. I get why though. Putting the allies away is quite nice. Um, Especially if you're playing 9 golden tipples, being able
Mm-hmm.
to get rid of your golden tipples as well is probably a bit better. So maybe in a 9 golden tipple list, the seek blow is preferable. But I just enjoy not running the red golden tipples. Just playing. But he does play 3 sea leagues, so I kind of see what the thought process is there. Um, and I definitely think it is a buy if you're just trying to like sea lake spam them, and it does give you lots of go again. I was able to watch him there over the weekend. And it definitely you can do a lot of crazy combos at a certain point. Um, at a certain point there. He also runs Ivafidia. Again, if I was smart enough to realize how that worked, I would have been playing it a lot earlier. I think he doesn't play swell either. Yep, no swell in this deck either. So one back alley break line.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I'm wrong on swell, but I don't know. If you have 3 back alley break line and 6 chart/swell is pretty powerful. Maybe everyone else might give that a try afterwards. It's quite strong indeed. Quite
Brody
strong indeed there.
also Brody also agreed with you on, or well, agreed with Jacob Shaker rather on the density of allies. He's on 21, although they're not
Yep.
all exactly the same. Somebody that doesn't agree is Miss Yuki Lee Bender, who we just had on the channel recently. She is very excited about Gravy Bones. I heard it from her
Mm.
personally. She's absolutely loving building him and figuring this hero out. She, however, is on a whopping number of reds compared to both you, Jacob Shaker, and Brody Spurlock, and she's only sporting 18 allies versus the other two's 21 and you're 23.
Yep. Yep. I remember seeing this. So it was interesting. When we were watching one of her games, she was playing Sloop, and I was like, Sloop, I'm not Sloop. I didn't try it, but I like
Mm-hmm.
it. Yeah, so this deck has the ability to pretty much either play board state or play going as aggressive as possible, very aggro, and swinging a lot of damage at your opponent. I tend to, as a board state player, I like to have more of a board state. That doesn't mean I'm not going to try and kill my opponent at the same time. That's why I run the prismatic ley lines as my aggressive damage output filler card, pretty much. It helps kind of catch me up to the lack of reds I'm playing because of prismatic ley line. Even though I bumped it down to 2 with scoop up, it still gets the job done. It's less cloggy there too, and recyclable as well. But I get the idea behind all the reds there. It's also kind of like a popper, right? It's very cool.
Mm,
9 poppers for Prism, but again, I don't think you really want to pop Prism. I think you just want to throw damage at Prism and just kill them. And then like eventually they can't because they want to be killing allies, right? So like if they're going to be attacking your allies and you're killing Prism, then ideally Prism won't be able to kill you as fast as possible. You just have to hopefully, if they try and loop you, you just call to the grave your back alley break line. But I do think there is a idea and like a world behind this more aggressive version, um, especially if you're not playing Chart the High Seas. I do believe he is
she's
on
got it.
charts.
Yeah.
I thought she wasn't. I'm surprised, but hey, it is at the very least. It's a good card. Pretty broken second cycle at the very least. So
I'm
I
also
think
noticing 2 time snap potions. What do you think about that?
mm, not in love with the time snap potions. I think you'd probably just want to play. I think you probably just want to play back alley break lines. But if you're not running blue swells, I get it. I get the idea behind it. Now,
She
I
does have
personally
blue
wouldn't.
swells, though.
Oh wow, yeah.
It's pretty
I
curious.
know this also. I know this deck is also. There's this version, but there's a more updated version that was being played as well. So this
Mm,
isn't like the completely updated version. So maybe the
I see.
timestamp potions were just for the article, and those were taken out later on in the list. Um, I'm not in love with timestamp potion. I get the idea behind it. It's basically like 2 extra diamond amulet, right? But I'm not in love with it. Um, but other than that, I mean, like it's definitely like more aggressive redline variant. And I think if you are doing that, then that's when like play more copies of like you play the Oysons, all the rigor mortis, all the Sawbones, just try and kill that. And the deck can present a lot of damage. Um, so I definitely think there is kind of like an idea. I was gonna test it beforehand. I actually didn't have any time to test like a super redline heavy version, and I just kind of went with what I got going on here. But I definitely think is interesting. And if you're playing, it kind of like leans more into like the 9 gold play when you're playing all the sea legs as well. 9 golden tibbles. Might as well play a bit more extra reds there and start to slam them in the face. You really don't need a lot of allies in the first place. But again, I like playing all these allies because they're more sideboard slots for main board pieces, and having all these options for certain matchups allows for more flexibility in my sideboard while also not taking up a bunch of room. Um, but if you're only running like the strict like here's my main 15 allies and then like whalers for sideboard and whatnot, plus maybe someone else, um, then you don't need all these extra allies, right? So uh, you play more reds, more aggressive heavy attacks. So I get it. It's a vibe. It's a vibe. This is like the other 2 versions, Brody's and Jacob's. I was able to kind of test, and there are things that I didn't like personally, but that's again, I just hate playing red cards. So I've been a red hater. Uh, so I maybe that's more like a preference, or maybe that might be nine typical might be the way, but maybe 6 might be a nice sweet spot. I haven't been able to try the red line version simply because I just refused. I refused red cards, so it makes sense I didn't come to this conclusion. I'm curious to see how Yuki's list turns out. I'm gonna be looking at the Canadian regional or nationals uh, very intensely to see where they end up navigating this list and if it kind of reflects more of this or if it ends up reflecting maybe parts of my ideas or maybe they can take what Brody and Jacob were playing and put it all together in some Frankenstein genius combination. So curious to see how people go throughout the next couple of months and develop this deck, because I think there's a lot of ways to build this deck, and I think it's very unsolved still, even though we are coming closer and closer.
And that's exactly why we've spent so much time on this here deck tech, because it is a completely empty easel. It is a blank canvas upon which we can write our fates. And you have certainly done so, Austin. So thank you so much for taking the time. I think, we are over 2 hours at this point, which means that we have put Alan Lube and Tao Tao in the dust. And now we are the longest deck tech on the internet. We'll have to see how they respond. But thanks again for being here, Austin. And thank you for being so forthwith, like all of the AGE crew are, with their ideas, and for being such a supportive member of our community and everybody that wants to pick up Gravy Bones Shipwrecked Looter.
Absolutely. And you know me, I could yap about Gravy Bones or board state decks for hours. So maybe we'll do more content in the future. If people really want to see more stuff, maybe we can show gameplay VODs and whatnot of the deck and kind of go over a few things, what we got cooking in the tank. But yeah, I could yap on for hours. If they release a 4-hour, releasing a marathon, 12-hour marathon charity stream, all Gravy Bones board state decks. Be awful.
I'll spend some money on a more comfy chair, and we can make that.
I'll buy a better camera. Yeah, maybe I'll do my bed. I'll make it look nice, not just a pile of sheets. Yeah.
Well, speaking of what's cooking,
Okay.
Austin, we've got a couple other things in the pipeline here at AGE. I myself have got a podcast that releases whenever I can get episodes together. The first one ever was with Yuki Lee Bender, whose Decklist we were looking at here. We've also got some AGE Opens coming up this month of June 2025. This coming Saturday, June 14th, will be AGE LA, and then June 28th is another Saturday, and that'll be AGE New England, a fresh new location, Grave Troll Games in Nashua, New Hampshire. Both of those events will be streamed, so find us at our home on YouTube, Arcane Games and Events. Be there, and until next time, thank you so much from the entire AGE Pro Team crew.